Today's episode is brought to you by Drift Outfitters in downtown Toronto, Ontario. Drift Outfitters is your source for all things fly fishing. From waders and boots to thread and feathers, Drift has it all. They're now open for in-store shopping, but with a COVID times twist. Along with mandatory masks, a few other things have changed. So check in on their website to find their latest updates and policies. Safety first, fly fishing second. Curbside pickup for your online or phone orders is still a great way to get all the gear you need, and they're still shipping across Canada for free on orders over $100. Visit driftoutfitters.com to learn more. Hello, and welcome to another episode of So Fly. It is middle of August. We recorded yesterday, and we're recording again today. My name is Mitch. We've got Aldo.
Hey.
We've got Yelma.
Hey, everyone.
And we've got two very special guests on the show today. Super excited to finally... It's tough to track down, two people to do a podcast, and now we've got 5 people on a Zoom call here. It's a lot of coordination, but we finally did it. We've got Matt and Nick here. Matt, how's it going? Nick, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming on, guys. We're going to be talking today about your fly fishing trip recently to a very amazing region in Ontario to fish the Nipigon. The Nipigon is such an amazing place, and we've never really talked much about it on the show. We've never fished it, but that trip looked wild.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy. I find that whole area is kind of shrouded in a little bit of secrecy.
Yeah,
it's a big lake. It can be nerve-wracking out there, big water, and the weather changes on a dime. So yeah, I feel like even if you're trying to start out and plan one of these trips, you're searching and finding minimal information.
Oh, totally, man.
Yeah, so it's a lot of work, but in the end, you just kind of gotta put your boat in the water and go.
Yeah, get your feet wet, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Go on.
I'm not even sure people realize how big the lake actually is. It's like 6 times the size of Lake Simcoe, I believe.
Jesus.
Wow.
I looked it up before this just to make sure I was right. It's 4,900 square kilometers.
Decent.
And in comparison to Lake Simcoe, Lake Simcoe is 740.
Whoa.
So yeah, you're going to areas, when you're driving after you've launched your boat in the morning, you're driving over the distance from Barrie to like Aurelia to get to your first spot. So
that's rad,
sometimes we were driving like 50 kilometers one way.
It's crazy.
Wow.
It was rad.
Yeah,
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
And then you throw in, it's great when it's calm, right, Nick?
Yeah, it's a wonderful place when it's calm, but when it's rough. Well, one of my questions for Matt before, maybe like the day before we left, was, do you know how to drive a boat in rough water? I don't.
Yeah, I think it was on the way up. We were in the car, just
Maybe.
chatting it up with my dad, just chatting everything up, and he's like, "Yeah, can you drive a boat in rough water?"
I love that.
Yeah, I think we're good. My dad just laughed.
Oh man, we're definitely gonna get to all that rough water stuff because I've heard stories of that too. Even just talking to Eric Lund up at Esnagami Lodge, we were talking about Nipigon, and he's like, "Dude, it's crazy. It's like the ocean." So we're gonna get to all that stuff, but why don't we just start by kind of setting up you guys as anglers, just so everybody at home listening, knows a little bit about you guys. Why don't we start with Nick?
And they're 2 great guys.
Two great guys.
We met part of the community down here.
Yeah, we've met all kinds of times. Yeah,
That's it. Not professionals, just local anglers, but
yeah. Nick, why don't we start with you? Like, how did you get into fishing? How did it all begin for you? What's the deal?
I don't know. I guess a pretty long story, but like many of you guys, started when I was really young. Started fly fishing actually really young, and I kind of hated it at first. My dad used to drag me out to like the local rivers around here, and he'd always want to fly fish because he watched this movie called River Runs Through It, and he thought it was really cool. And he used to bring me out, to the Grand and stuff like that. And I never really wanted to go because I caught more bass when I'd go bass fishing, and that was maybe I was around like 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
Then around like 12, 13, we took a trip out to British Columbia, and then actually started fly fishing and catching fish. Took what I learned out there, came back over here, caught my first brown, and that was basically it. Became obsessed. Periods of life, life happens, and I put the fly rod down for a couple of years and then picked it back up again, and away you go. And I don't know, I've been kind of passionate ever since.
I can dig that, man. And your fly fishing photography too is wicked, if I do say so. You take some amazing photos. You do a lot of photography just like in your day-to-day as well, right?
So I mean, I did a lot of backpacking, and like my wife and I took a year abroad, went Southeast Asia, India, and stuff like that, and really picked up the photography bug then.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I was always shooting photos, and then when I started getting kind of back into fly fishing again, like around mid-20s,
Yeah.
I was like, why don't I bring my camera fly fishing? And then there's this little thing called Instagram that popped up, and it was a way to really sort of share photos really easy. I don't know if you guys ever used Flickr or anything like that beforehand.
Yeah.
Flickr, yeah, that was big. I loved Flickr. That was really cool avenue to share photos and stuff like that too. But I don't know, Instagram's obviously the way to go now. But
yeah.
yeah,
I was about to shout you out, Nick, when I just realized you changed your handle to Salmographer.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I hated that handle, man. I had that handle for a long time, and then I don't know, I just decided to change it.
You're no longer Nick Goes Fishing.
No.
Salmographer.
Yeah, you got it.
I like that,
Right
man.
on.
I like Salmographer. Why the change? Why the Salmographer? What does that mean?
Because most of my pictures are of brown trout.
Makes a lot of
There you
sense.
go.
I like that. Cool, baby. Okay, Matt, how'd you get into fly fishing?
No brown trout in Lake Nipigon though. So.
There's no browns in Nipigon, yeah.
Yeah, if there was one there, Nick, you definitely would have caught it. So.
It's pretty short, though. Yeah, Matt, how'd you get into the sport? How did it start for you?
I think very similar to most people that are lucky enough to grow up in Ontario with a family that is oriented in the outdoors. My dad kind of put a rod in my hand as early as I could walk, pretty much, if not earlier. And same old, just catching sunfish off the docks and stuff like that. But I think it wasn't too many years later that he was like, wow, this kid's really into it. And, he really supported me, bought a boat, helped me get the jobs there. I'd have a little bit extra money to spend on tackle. And it wasn't until I was about, early teens that I actually picked up fly fishing. I picked it up from a friend of mine, actually also named Matt, who actually sold me one of his rods. It was a cheap Crystal River outfit for like $50.
Nice.
And I actually still have that rod. It's just like,
Nice.
it's actually sitting up in my soon-to-be son's bedroom, actually, which is super
Whoa!
bit about that. Yeah.
True that.
Congrats.
That's right. You guys are both daddies.
Yeah.
Almost there. Nick is.
almost
He's
like Nick is.
experienced now.
Yeah, man.
I keep looking to him for advice.
I know nothing. I'm a year into it. Though.
Yeah.
Fresh daddies.
Yeah.
Love it.
But, and then I think we can all relate to fishing. Kind of the decisions you make in life really revolve around fishing at times. Growing up, luckily had my cottage. Where I went to school, that was just partly a decision that I had the St. Mary's Rapids, like within a bus ride downtown.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And from one thing led to another, going to school, then got a job at a fishing resort on Lake of the Woods and ended up guiding there for multiple years.
Radical.
And then that was all, a lot of that was conventional up there, but, I was always looking forward to my falls back in the Sioux, fishing for rainbows and Atlantics.
Nice.
And then, once I moved all over the world a little bit, came back home, and it's funny how you do that. I'm currently living like 20 kilometers from where I grew up. But and then it's just a matter of finding what's in your backyard. And like many of us found, the few cold water streams that we have in Ontario, and those really were my calling, and, got into the trout really heavily. And then it's all about what else can I catch on a fly rod?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I know. I love that.
Did you enjoy guiding when you did?
You know what? I actually loved it, but I'm not an old guy, but it's a young man's sport for sure. You age really fast out there.
It's a lot of work, eh?
In the boat every day, you were guiding, I think, 100 plus days in a row, no days off. And it sounds funny to say like no days off from fishing, but like, you've never seen cracked hands like that.
You're working for it.
Yeah. But fun. Took advantage of it, learned a lot about, warm water species for the most part while I was up there. Muskie and pike, walleye were the big things.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep saying that it might be like a retirement plan.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun. Just like casually.
Casually guiding. Yeah. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
I just got to say, fishing with Matt, just like casually, his guiding experience is very obvious because there was one moment even on this trip where he was driving the boat. I think he was untangling his dad and telling me where to cast all in the same moment. I realized, this guy had a lot of guy experience because I wouldn't be able to do even one of those things very well.
I could dig that, man.
Oh, shucks.
That's awesome, man. Oh,
Yeah.
Gilma's showing us.
Oh
a
yeah, that
giant
was.
pike.
Yeah, there's one of Gab's photos.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You.
Oh,
went
really?
to Nipigon
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, he came up with my dad and myself last year.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the first attempt at taming the beast.
That's
so to speak.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So,
it-
how did the Nipigon come about? Like, you just one day were like, you and your dad were like, hey, let's go to this crazy giant lake.
Kind of. Like, actually, it didn't start with me and Gab. We're trying to plan a trip that unfortunately didn't work out. But we're like, where can we drive to that has, giant pike?
Yeah.
And I just right off the top of my head, I'm like, well, my cousin lives in Thunder Bay, and like I see he doesn't do a lot of pike fishing. There's a lot of lake trout fishing, but he always tells me about the giant pikes. I'm like, well, we could drive to Nipigon, and then it was just like
Oh.
2 months of solid research. And like I was like, hey, Dad, you want to join? I mean, we need your boat and your truck. So he was like, yeah, I'm not missing out on that. And we, hit the lake and we learned a lot. We went up in August, so it wasn't like prime, shallow water pike fishing, but we still slayed them and found a lot of big fish. But the whole time I was there last year, I just couldn't help. What would this be like after ice out?
Yeah.
And we got to experience that. It was insane.
Oh man. So Nick, were you just like seeing the photos from last year and you're like, I got to get myself on this trip too?
Well, I was creeping them pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And I talked to Matt about it quite a bit because, to be honest with you, I was really interested in Nipigon for the brook trout.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what puts it on the radar for most people. It's
Totally.
obviously world record was caught. I don't know if you guys know all the lore around Dr. Cook's world record, 14 pounds.
I actually don't.
No.
No. What's the story
Oh,
there?
please.
Tell it.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm the best person to tell the story. I'll do my best.
Yeah.
But yeah, the world record brook trout was caught on the Nipigon River back before it was dammed. There's lots and lots of hydroelectric dams on it now. So this is going back to 1915. And Dr. Cook hired a bunch of, he was from Thunder Bay, and he went to go fish Nipigon, which is about 2 hours away. And he hired a bunch of local Aboriginal guides to take him out. They took him to a bunch of different sets of rapids. He was using a fly rod, but he actually used a sculpin, which in the Cree dialect is like cockatouche, or is the name of the bait fish. And so he's fishing live bait on a fly rod. And he caught a 14-pound, 6 ounce, I believe, but 31-inch brook trout.
That's
And a
Oh my
lot of
God.
folklore around this fish. Some people dispute it, like most world records.
Right.
The skin mount was lost in the fire, but if you're really into brook trout, you can go celebrate brook trout in Nipigon every June. I think it's June. They have an event to celebrate brook trout there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So going back to what I was saying, Nipigon is really put on the map for brook trout, and that's really what I was interested in. I think Matt knew in the back of his mind that he's saying he wants to catch brook trout, but what he's really saying is he's gonna love this pike fishing that they discovered.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The brook trout were tough. It's not the kind of place you can go and expect to really hammer numbers, but we got some brook trout, so we didn't blank on those. But man, I went for the brook trout. I definitely stayed for the pike. Pike was awesome.
Those pike were crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe for people who aren't aware of what is the Nipigon? What is it? Where is it? It's a lake, it's a river, it's both.
It's both. It's I guess depending on where you read, it's actually the headwaters for most of the Great Lakes. So it's the furthest north in the Great Lake system. It flows into Lake Superior. Some of the northern rivers actually on Lake Nipigon flow north towards James Bay. So it's like
Cool.
right at the highest point of the Great Lake Basin, which is really cool. It's a giant lake about an hour and a half or so northeast of Thunder Bay. It's up there. I mean, we joked. I live not far from Highway 11, and we got on Highway 11, turned right, and drove on that for 15 hours, and then turned left, and we were at the lake. It's about as far as you can go on Yonge Street, so to speak.
That's amazing.
So that was pretty cool. It's and then below the first set of dams, I believe there's, like, I could be wrong, I think it's 4 or 5 other hydro dams, something like that,
Whoa.
that go towards Lake Superior.
Okay.
And it dumps out in Nipigon Bay, which is right in the town of Nipigon.
I can dig that. I mean, like you said, best, like, known for its brook trout. I think the first thing I ever heard about Nipigon was the Nipigon brook trout. And if people listening at home can Google this, just Google Nipigon brook trout, and you'll see why a 14-pound brook trout like isn't like what? That's impossible because it's like the fish
Totally.
coming out of that lake are crazy.
Well, it's definitely possible because they'll go back to the previous trip. We were windbound for a day, and we had me and Gab were in the boat, and we were stuck on shore pretty much, but we were right by our campsite, and I was sick of hooking myself. I think I hooked myself like 3 times casting in this wind, put so many holes in my new jacket.
Yeah.
And so I actually picked up a bait caster rod with a swim bait and threw one cast, and had another, what I thought was a pike hit. And we got it to the boat. And then you all know how Gab freaks out.
Yes.
That's a brook trout. And we ended up, backing the drag off a little bit and putting it in the net. And it was huge. It was over 25 inches,
Wow.
almost 19 inches around. Now, really would have loved to pick that fish up on a fly, but I'm not gonna disregard it just because of that.
No, definitely not, man. It's a crazy fish.
It's pretty rad. But the brook trout, are what gives it, its popularity for sure.
Yeah.
But what that does leave open is a lot of untouched other species.
Yeah.
So to speak. Yeah. I mean, there's still people fishing up there, don't get me wrong. But you drive, like I was saying, we launched in an area called South Bay, which is one of like 2 launches, and they're about 2 hours apart on the lake by car. So it's a pretty well-known area, South Bay. But you talk to people and they're at the launch or whatever, and they're like, where'd you go? And we told them like out in the lake, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't ever leave South Bay. We don't, because the lake's uncharted. You don't know where the reefs are. You don't know where the rock piles are. Any areas you could wreck your motor. So it's crazy. It's definitely eye-opening. You get out there and realize how alone you actually are, even though you just drove there, which is pretty weird.
Yeah.
Almost feels like you flew in. But yeah, you get all these other species that really don't see any pressure, which is why I love pike fishing up there. And I mean, I amped it up to Nick for months, I would say, in advance. We were talking about it steelheading, back in February, and like he's like, I think I'm gonna go. I think I got it to work. I think we can do it. And then all this fun hit with COVID, and we were pretty much about like, well, do we cancel? Like, Crown Land Camping's not open. Like, we don't want to risk a ticket. And it so happens that my cousin in Thunder Bay is a police officer, and he's like, yeah, like the M&R is out there. Like, they're looking for people camping, and they're going to ticket and they're going to tow. So we ended up making a decision last moment which worked out, to stay at our resort on the lake on the East Shore. But we, I guess you could say we weren't too confident in that area. It was a smaller area. In order to get anywhere that I knew, so to speak, would have been like a 4-hour drive one way, 3-hour drive one way. And if the weather picked up at all, we wouldn't have made it back. So we trailered, we drove 15 hours and then trailered about an hour and 15 minutes one way, each way every day. So
wow,
it was a lot of driving around, a lot of gas, but you get out there.
Wow, man.
We even threw a tent in the boat just in case
Just in case,
there. You had to make do and camp on an island or something, because the scale really can't be underestimated. It's not the kind of place that you casually just get a group of friends together and think, hey, we're just going to go out there. I don't know. I wouldn't have been confident to do it unless I knew somebody that had done it previously. And I don't think Matt would have been confident to do it unless he had the information through his cousin that he did it for many times, right?
I mean, the only way I knew where to go at first was the first day we went there last year was he let us out in his boat, and I just marked the trail on our GPS, and that way I at least knew a safe way back.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared. This is like,
I'm just doing my due diligence here, just in case someone listening to this is like, I'm going to go to Nipigon, and they bring their canoe and they head out there, and then like 5 minutes. I just want to make sure that the disclaimer is there.
I feel like the boat launch should have like a size requirement for like boat size and horsepower. Like you do not want to launch a 12-foot with a 9.9 on it.
Yeah, no way.
It will not be a good day.
No. So my 12-foot John 5 horse, not going to cut it, right? 300 weight per pound limit.
Yeah, maybe pick your weather.
Can't bring the Watermasters out?
Yeah.
Okay, shit. I mean, that's Nick. Thanks for doing that, because we never really put disclaimers out. We're like, you should go fish the spot, and then people are like going to get launched by 12-foot waves. What was the gnarliest like scenario weather-wise that you got? Were you ever in a moment where like, oh, this is actually kind of sketchy? Maybe we should,
I know. Maybe I'll speak first, but I didn't have any sketchiness. I just was like shocked at times.
Yeah.
Like June. What day was it? We had the 11th where we had snow.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Something like that.
Are you kidding me?
It was snowing. It was -1. It was snowing.
Whoa.
It was kind of crazy.
Fishing sucked that day.
It did.
Yeah.
I think it was 1 or 2 days we kind of got shore bound.
Yeah.
That was the first full
Oh,
day
wow.
where we got shorebound. We couldn't leave.
Wow.
Well, maybe like, do you want to walk us through the trip? Like, maybe like chronologically, kind of. Not every
Wait,
detail, but
yeah,
like,
but before I need to know about the wildlife other than the fish. Like, did you guys see anything?
You know what?
Oh, Yilma, this is your kind of place. Is that it's a huge lake and there's a lot of water, and so you were very far away from any sort of bear or.
It's great. It's great.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Thanks, Nick. You're a good man.
No, I saw a bunch of eagles. That was about
that's
it this time.
We saw a bear on the road. We saw a bear
That's
on the
right.
road.
That's right. On the way in.
yes, we saw a bear on the way out on Esnagami because we were at
Oh, yeah.
Esnagami pretty much the same,
Yeah.
just a week apart,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you get in the car, you convince your dad to go again,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
I didn't have to twist his arm very hard.
Yeah, definitely not. And you're off, and then and then you mentioned you stayed at a resort or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go for it, Nick.
Yeah, first day we got there. I mean, you guys know, like you get pretty excited. You can't wait to rig up, and I mean, it's all positive vibes in the air. And Matt ran. I think you were wading in the water, casting as soon as we got there.
Yep. Pretty much. Didn't mess around.
Is that pike would come on the first cast. And so, yeah, once we got the boat in the water, we headed out just in this area that Matt was saying that we were staying in that we had literally zero confidence in. It didn't look too promising.
Yeah.
But that all changed really quickly. We were pretty much, I think it was my first cast I had to follow, right? And
Did.
it was pretty crazy. And then we got into the fish pretty good. Obviously, we were pike fishing right out of the gate. And we found some warmer water. And I think Matt caught a 40-inch pike within the first half an hour.
Oh.
I mean, it was 41, but I mean, like this was, I've been talking this up for months, and we're in an area now that I'm not confident in. I've never fished here.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like twitching a little bit. We go into this, you're driving around, driving down this bay, and there's one area that looks like a shallow river mouth that's dumping in. Can't go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Work in there. Yeah, Nick follow first on his first cast. I hit a 37 on my first fish, and then Nick, you think you hit one that was like 36, like right after, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. Like this is working out.
Yeah.
That was the best pike, by the way. Like,
yeah, it was a PB.
That was my best pike.
That's a nice fish.
Yeah, it broke the ice pretty quick. And then not on the way back out, just got crushed by a 41, a big beat up post spawn female.
I remember that. Is that photo you guys posted with like all the gnarly scars or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
That photo was amazing.
That's cool.
It was beat up.
I don't think that's it.
Oh, that's not it. That was. I'll get to that one.
But this 41-inch fish was in the first, like you said, first 15, 20
30
minutes.
minutes.
Like 30 minutes. That's the best start to a trip, though, right?
It was shocking.
It was like around.
Yeah, man. Especially when you don't know the area, you're like, I don't know about this, and then you're just like, what? This is gonna be.
It opened our eyes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick.
And I need to say that Matt's dad is the best net man I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't matter like anything that he's doing. He's there with the net, and like first shot every single time he was there for it.
Oh man, see, that's crucial, man. A good net guy. That's
You need a good net guy.
Definitely. He doesn't mess around.
It's a skill.
Yilma's a sneaky, like excellent net guy.
Yeah.
Because he's so paranoid about losing the fish.
Yeah, because
it's like he doesn't take chances.
Yeah,
it's
I don't
like
like it.
he locks in, and it's just like
it's a skill, man. Netting it's a whole other thing. We should do a podcast just on that.
I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, me too.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's cool. We'll put the show. In the show notes, we'll link out to all this stuff so people listening can see. But these fish are gnarly, man. That's the first half an hour.
First half
that's
hour.
the first half an hour. You got to follow. You've got a brand new spot. You got a 37-inch fish in the boat. Nick's personal best.
Yeah.
You've got two massive fish, and
and then we probably caught another 60.
What? That's sick.
Working our way upriver, but they were mostly
all that big though. Come on, be honest. Not all.
I know they weren't all that big. A lot of low 30s.
That's okay.
That's great.
It was awesome. A great first day. Second day though, that was when we made our first full trip. We woke up because we knew we had to drive. We woke up, I think, at 4:30.
Yeah.
I mean, sunrise there was. We might have woken up earlier actually. Sunrise was like 3:30, Nick, something like that at that time of year.
I don't remember, but yeah,
something like that. It was something early, so we were up at least by 3:30. Anyways, get to the launch at like 4:15 and make make a run to an area that I had a lot of confidence in. We did very well in the previous year.
Yeah.
And it's basically two big river mouths that converge into one entrance into the lake, and big sand flats, and it's very shallow, weedy. We went on in, and nobody was there. Obviously, like we drove, I don't know what that was, an hour and a half, 2 hours one way. Pulled on in, and it was, I've never experienced pike fishing like that. It was, I think you caught one again on your first cast, I think, Nick.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and this was coming into the bay where I'm not even fishing. And to kind of describe this a bit more, the bay is so shallow to get into it. Your motor can't be trimmed up shallow enough. So someone's got to get out of the boat and pull it across the sand flats.
Yeah.
But then it drops off. You drop off into 4 to even some areas of that river mouth were like 15 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So you pull it in, and I'm pulling the boat at the front, and Nick's casting off the back, and he's like, "Oh, I got one."
It was maybe a bit of a dick move.
But hey, I was like,
they were trying to get us
here,
and I was casting.
It always happens. It always, every single one of our trips, that's how it goes.
yeah.
Someone's working, someone's fishing.
Yeah.
I love that.
We dragged it in, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to even talk about specific fish because it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was the only way I could describe it was just like pure mayhem.
Yeah.
Like at one point in time, like we each had big fish on.
Doubles.
Dad didn't know who's to net, and we were like kind of trying to eye them up as to this one's a few inches bigger than this one.
Yeah.
Net his first. It was pure mayhem.
That's so fun.
I will talk about one
Mhm.
fish, and
You're-
it's the one that got away.
Mhm.
It's always the one that goes.
Really, really big one that I hooked, and I had him right beside the boat, and then it scared me. I was actually kind of frightened. It was one of those kind of fish that like I'd never seen before, and it was like a submarine coming out of the depths. Matt got a great look at it. He's got like this cool casting platform built on the front of his boat.
Okay.
It makes his Lund almost like a little saltwater type boat for
Sick.
casting, where there's nothing to get
Nice.
stuff on.
Nice.
It's awesome. He had a great look at the fish, and that's out there, and I don't know, that would have been probably fish of the trip.
What do you
That was-
Matt, can you, since you got the good look, like what was it? What are we looking at here?
I hate to put specifics, but like definitely high 40s, if not bigger.
Oh,
Like it was a
So
tank, and
wild.
at this point, I don't know if you'd caught a 40 incher yet, Nick.
No, I hadn't. No.
Like,
well, you got it to the boat. You got it to the side of the
oh
boat.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, I just seeing something like that, and listen, you're not on your local water anymore.
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah. I know what you mean. Like when we did the our very first like big trip, the Wapiscat, and Mitch had netted that infamous first pike, or sorry, had caught that infamous first pike, and I netted it in the other boat. I remember because he was like, no, it's big. You guys got to come here and help me. And we're like, yeah. And then I get over there and I see it roll off the bottom, and I remember looking down at the water, being like, kind of, like you said, like kind of frightened.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the biggest
Big
fucking
fish.
fish I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's so cool. They live in that water.
I was
You're
like,
just
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimate predator.
We'll get into it a little bit later, but Matt didn't want to get in the water with them.
yeah.
Oh man, fair. Like I don't blame.
Fair
you, man.
enough, baby.
Well,
It's like I don't know,
Yeah.
crocodiles living in there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, you heard about the story in Winnipeg? So
Oh, the muskie.
Yeah.
Muskie attack, yeah.
Yeah. What was that again? What happened with that one again?
So she was just waiting, bare feet, and a muskie pulled at her like
Dude,
right leg, and just like it was like a shark bite. It was
She had to go to
just-
the hospital, I think, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all that.
That was in Lake of the Woods, right?
no, I think it was the Winnipeg River, which it does dump into Lake of the Woods, but yeah.
It's wild.
Since
Yeah,
you're telling the story, we need to preface it that it's fact, not fishing.
Yes, this
Yeah.
is not fishy. This is
Yeah.
fact.
Hey!
That's a good point too. man.
Yeah,
I saw that. I
is
was like, I couldn't believe she had to get hospitalized. Like this fish is not her. I'm like, Jesus.
dude, the bite was insane.
We got to go to
It was
Winnipeg,
insane.
man. Yeah.
Man, it's awesome though. I can feel your like the stoke of that first day,
Oh,
even through the Zoom call.
Yeah.
And I can definitely tell that was like a wild day.
I mean, we threw numbers out about how many we caught, and I think, I mean, it was in the hundreds between three
Wow.
of us.
That's cool.
And I can't remember how many over 40, but it was significant.
Wow.
Say how many over 40 I caught that day?
Yeah.
It was 0. I caught 0. I had this like weight on my shoulders.
That's true.
yeah.
But
But
Yeah,
Matt's dad caught 40s. Matt caught multiple 40s.
And you were
And not the
just-
numbers matter, but but
I know.
sometimes you make it up in your head that they matter, right?
Yeah, totally.
And they were starting to matter to me. And then about 3/4 of the day through, I developed this really big problem where I couldn't keep walleye off my line.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you weren't throwing walleye flies.
No, I actually have the fly beside me here because I
There
think
you go. Show it
What
off.
is it?
Walleye fly. This is my walleye fly.
Oh, nice fly.
It's so
that's
big.
I mean, that's also, it looks like a great
It's a pike fly.
Oh yeah. It looks like a walleye.
It's long.
It does.
It's 12 inches long, and
Yeah.
walleye were eating it like crazy. And
Was anybody
Yeah.
else catching walleye?
Not at first.
No, not really.
That's amazing.
I don't know what was going on, but we got into this one little area, and the walleye were just going bananas.
Yeah.
And they were huge walleye. I'd never
Weren't
seen walleye
small.
take flies like that before. I'd caught walleye on the fly before, but never chasing huge streamers like that, like eating it right at the boat, just like a pike would.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, they're
Swirling
doing that in
right at the boat.
Esnagami too. It was crazy. Like the smallest of fish going after the biggest of flies.
Well, these weren't that small. Like they were
Yeah.
30
Nice.
inches. So
Yeah.
Holy
high,
shit.
high 20s, over 30.
they
It
were
was-
biggest walleye I've ever caught in my life. I used to live up in James Bay. We used to get pretty big walleye up there.
Yeah, I would think.
Walleyes I've seen.
Oh,
You
my
lived in
goodness.
James Bay?
I used to live in Fort Albany.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
I was going to ask, is this the first time you've seen like Northern Ontario or this region?
No, Matt's had a lot of experience in Northern Ontario.
Yeah. There you go.
I used to be a paramedic up in Fort Albany, which is just south of Attawapiskat.
Yeah.
I used to work in Attawapiskat for a very short period of time as well.
Oh,
I think I just got amazing fishing while I was up there, but I was really working a lot. I didn't get a lot of fishing other than fishing the local
Yeah.
area that like the kids fished, like the
Yeah.
little like training wheels area.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then, if you timed it right at the tides, you'd get like some pretty big pike and some pretty big
Oh,
walleye.
yeah, I bet.
But
The,
yeah, Nipigon, the fish size was far superior. All my friends from up north in James Bay, they all go to Nipigon to fish. So
Yeah, see, that's the thing I've heard that blows my mind because it's like, oh, they're around such amazing fisheries, and it's like, but a lot of people do that in Ontario. They're like, no, I just go to the Nipigon, or oh, I want to catch giant fish, I go to the Nipigon. Like I don't go anywhere else. It's like, oh man, there's something going on in the Nipigon. I don't know what it
something's
is.
going on there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about? Sorry,
Yeah.
I just stumbled on this photo here.
You almost just like feverishly
Yeah, let's chat about those.
scrolling through.
Yeah,
All right. So that's the next day. Are we ready to move
Okay.
on to the next day?
Day 2.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, day two. Day two.
Holy shit.
The weather was a little bit different, and we couldn't make it back to this where we had that really amazing fishing. Do I got the dates right, Matt?
You got it right, man. Yeah.
Okay. And so that next day we couldn't go as far as we did the previous day. So Matt looked at the weather and looked at the landscape, and so we found another kind of sheltered location that would block us from the wind.
Mhm.
And the fishing was remarkably slower, but we did eventually find some areas that were pretty consistent for pike. I think the first place we went was a complete write-off.
Yep.
We just boated like 45 minutes, an hour and a bit, maybe
With the wind,
with the wind.
Yeah.
turned around
Pounding
into
on the
it.
boat like crazy, and we got there and it was just a write-off. We weren't catching fish. The bottom was all stirred up. There was no visibility.
It was super shallow.
Oh,
The
yeah.
confidence was down in the very bottom.
Mhm.
I've been chirping Matt the day prior that I wanted to get out and wade for the fish because, well, I thought that it would look really cool.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah. Yeah.
also, we were spooking them like crazy. These pike
Yeah.
are in water that's like, honestly, like 12 inches to like 3 feet deep. And you could see the big mud boils when you'd like be going in close to make casts and stuff like that off the boat. We'd spook them, right? So I figured like people do this all the time, like walk in the water, try to be stealthy and get nice and close to these fish. And so finally I was convincing him and pretty much begged him to let me out of the boat. And we got into another really warm little sheltered bay where we could do this, and the bottom was hard enough. And it was a kind of slower day, and I caught a couple fish. And then it wasn't that fish that Yilma just held up, but it was the one previous. And that was my personal best pike of the entire trip, and hit into fish. But if you know anything about me, I get really excited really fast. And it causes me to lose fish from time to time. And Matt went into full guide mode, telling me that it's a nice like 30-inch pike, blah blah blah. But I knew it wasn't. After losing one the day before, there's no way that I was going to be mentally capable of losing another one of that size. And so, yeah, Matt wrangled that one in.
Yeah, I mean,
net or anything like that with us. It was pretty much like that gator wrestling that you see going on.
Yeah.
I think he tried about 4 or 5 times to get his hands around the thing, but we eventually got it, and yeah, it was another huge pike, 40, 42 and a half.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
But,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the whole time I was just like, don't worry, it's 37. It's 37. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. If you lose it, no
that was
big deal.
actually my favorite moment of the entire trip.
It's memorable.
You know, I was hearing what he was saying to me, but in my mind, I could tell that it was a much larger fish.
Hmm.
And when he finally got his grip around the fish, he came over to me with a great big smile and was like, "Welcome to the 40 Club."
Good friend, Matt. You're good.
Yeah, that was rad. And it was horrible because I think I tried to grab it literally 5 or 6 times, and I just couldn't get my hands around its back. It was so big, so wide.
Powerful. It's-
Oh my God, it was crazy.
It is fun waiting
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
It's just different. Like it's like
Sure
it is
is.
fun. Like you're in the water with them. You can, I don't know. There's something about the feeling of casting and stuff that's just a little more comfortable. You know.
yeah, yeah.
More stealthy.
Until you get it close to you and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
shit.
And then you're like,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're definitely on their turf, and I mean, it's like we haven't really mentioned this yet. It's mostly a visual experience there fishing for pike.
okay.
They're so shallow, they're so big. It's very reminiscent of saltwater.
That's
Not
cool.
the right conditions where the sun is shining down on the water. You
Sorry,
can
guys.
fish very well.
Yeah.
A lot of people were asking me after I came back, asking about brook trout and stuff like that. Why would you spend so much time going for pike? It's such a visual thing. I can't think of anything else that would be closer to saltwater fly fishing than that. I've done very minimal saltwater fly fishing. I will preface that and say I've been a couple times, but I don't know. It's
You're sight fishing.
And-
You're sight
You're
fishing.
sight
down
fishing.
there.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
exactly the experience we
definitely.
had when we
That's
were when we just got back from.
That was the first
sorry.
time we experienced sight fishing too, right? Elmo was
There we go.
Esnagami. Like
That's what I was trying to say.
It was similar. Like there was the pike. We weren't catching big pike at that time of year, but
Yeah.
shallow waters, and it was just spotting like dust clouds and spotting the fish, making the casts. It was super cool. It's the kind of I didn't in my head I didn't expect that for the Nipigon to be sight fishing on the Nipigon.
And if you get graced with a sunny day in that clear water, you can see them 100 feet plus from the boat.
Wow.
But we had our best days were all overcast days, and you might not have been able to. We did sight a few, but I think every big fish that ate, we saw it eat. We might not have seen it on the presentation,
That's cool.
but you'd see it follow, and you would make it commit. You would pause it, you would kill it, you would strip it fast,
Yeah.
and then you would try not to trout set.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
It's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Watching those big fish come up.
Oh, your heart
But
starts to pump, when that fish starts following. It's just like nothing else.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
I feel like I'm a bit dyed in the wool trout fisherman, and if I'm going to take a week off work, I want to go trout fishing.
Yeah.
But I'm converted.
You're a believer now.
You're a believer.
It's just they're big fish. They're big,
Yeah.
huge predators.
How can you not like them?
And yeah, it's totally like, it was like red fishing.
Yeah. Just like redfish, just like the redfish that we
It
did.
was exactly like red fishing. Like it's more so than done bonefish a handful of times, but
Well, you
And
come up
those
on
it
a
just felt like if you just come up on these fish that aren't moving.
Mhm.
Not really. Like the redfish are kind of sometimes routing around, but they're not like flying across the flats or anything. And the same thing, pike they're just hiding in those. I had never fished for pike in not weeds before.
Yeah.
I was like, what are they doing here? It's just sand.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what they're doing here. I mean, obviously they're spawning, but or had just spawned. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
post spawn. Yeah.
And but it was unique.
One thing that was definitely different this year was I think I told Nick to tie a bunch of like 6-inch flies because that's what we were killing them on in August last year, like smaller patterns, like smelt flies.
Yeah.
It wasn't the case. It was
Big.
10 to 14-inch flies all
Husky.
week long.
Man.
Yeah, it was, your arms were dead at the end of every day. I think we all suffered some injuries, whether it be your wrists or even though you try not to break your wrist while casting, but it is what it is with that heavy gear.
Yeah.
Even I had a weird one, like, just your stripping finger, you're like
God.
actually trying to strip as fast as you can. And it's
Yes.
like, wow, I couldn't close my hand.
Oh yeah. You get blisters, eh?
I took time off. Like I would literally be standing at the boat just
I know.
using the electric motor to guide these guys around because I was like, I can't grip my fly line for a strip set. Like,
Yeah,
this
man.
isn't good.
know
Yeah,
exactly
even
what
with
you're talking
stripping guards. Yeah, it's crazy.
Stripping guards are great, man.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They really are.
I even lost a tooth during the trip. So.
Oh yeah.
Did you really?
What?
Was it
Yeah,
on?
I just got it fixed.
How did you? What happened? What happened? Did you hit yourself in the face with a
Very
12-inch
last day
fly?
Nope. Very last day of the trip, I bit my tippet and I yanked it. And I fractured about half my tooth off. So
Seriously? Oh my god, I do that shit all the time. I bite my foot all the time.
but I've done it a lot too, and I mean it was a pre-existing injury, but it happened, and then Matt's dad made fun of me for it.
You just forgot it was Rio bite wire. That's what it was.
No, it wasn't bite wire.
trying to chop
wire.
just with your teeth.
Was that on day 2? Was that on day 2, that injury?
No, it was the last day of the trip.
Okay, well that's good at least.
Well, at least it was
But
last
day 2, we just kept trying to find, similar structure, because like Nick was saying, we weren't seeing as many fish as the first day. We were working for them, and it's not something you come to expect driving that far up and having to work for big fish. Like we were catching small ones, up to 30 inches, no problem. But because there's no charts on that lake, you're trying to look at what maps you have, and like, what does this river mouth look like in person? You have no idea, right? So you might be driving 35-40 minutes just to go check it out, and like Nick said, the first spot was a bust, but
never know.
We ended up going like in the afternoon to some spots I knew had some brook trout and had lots of follows. I think we got bit off by a couple pike out in the middle of the lake, which was not what we were expecting in 36-degree water. We thought they'd all still be up shallow, but lots of brook trout follows, and then we're like, well, might as well try this river mouth. And we walked on in. We left my dad at the mouth because we couldn't get the boat in, and we kept the waders on, and we started fishing. And we're looking back at him. My dad actually hooks a nice fish out at the mouth, like in the sand. We're like, oh, should be out there. And then Nick put the fly into another nice one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
it was a sweet fish too.
Asking, what fly are you using? And he started trying to copy my flies.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I was like
move.
bummed. I was like, I can't get anything decent today. They were all, 31, 32s, but
what was
and
working?
I let him hold it for the picture. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good move too.
you might have, yeah.
What fly was working that day? Like what was working?
I can't remember.
The gunner, you guys all tie, right? It's a gunner Bremer fly, and I tied, I don't know, we counted how many flies we tied, Matt. It was like hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
And we used like 6.
And
Yeah, that's all.
it's always the case. You bring like 3,000 flies and you end up using
I used one fly, and it was in a couple different color combinations. And flyers out there, I think it's called a hollow point. It's one of Gunnar Bremer's streamers, and it just fished so well. I don't know what it was, and it was in like an olive and white combination, and that was the confidence fly for me. And then Matt started trying to like raid his fly box for anything similar, and
found one.
Worked, but yeah, I mean, it's funny how you just get so much confidence in that one fly.
Yeah.
Same.
Speaking of confidence in one fly that I think is still alive, although I don't know, it's missing.
It's missing everything. It still works. Blinky.
Fuck.
It's like a chartreuse kind of big. It's like
fly.
a blob now.
Yeah. It was like a tiger
So
tiger fire or something like that.
yeah. So that's awesome. But you did eventually get into the brook trout. So when did that happen?
That was the following day.
Okay, cool.
We got, my dad has this weather radio with him that he carries everywhere when he's out in the boat, like one of those nautical radios.
Yeah.
And he's constantly listening to that weather channel. And I mean, I can't do that horrible robotic voice that's on it. I'm not even gonna try, but we all kind of know what it is.
Yeah.
And he will be, I think, Nick, you've got photos of him. I'm ripping on plane and he can't hear the thing. He's got it right next to his ear trying to hear the weather. And it's like flat calm out, like he's just so cautious.
Yeah.
But that whole night we were sitting around, I think we had some beauty steaks for dinner that night.
Nice.
And we were like, the weather is just not good tomorrow. So maybe tomorrow's a river day.
Okay.
And none of us had been on the Nipigon River before to fish for brook trout.
Yeah.
So with some advice from some people, we found a launch towards the top end of the river where it dumps into, or where the lake dumps into the river, the first dam. And we drive on up. We put the boat in, and it's a relatively decent run up until some of the famous areas, like Split Rock Narrows. That area, everyone's kind of, if you've been there, you know where that is. It's not a secret spot by any means. And it's moving water. Like you're running up river at 35 miles an hour, and you're maybe not whitewater all the time, but it's moving, and the boat's kind of left and right without you controlling it. And we ran up to some famous drifts and fished and nada, like
really
perfect conditions. Like it was windy, but like we were making it work.
Yeah.
Not seeing any follows, nothing.
The scenery
unreal.
unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's just huge rock walls
Yeah.
everywhere.
Canyon.
Big white
Really?
water
Canyons?
through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can't wade, like walk the shoreline. There's no way.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow.
one spot, right, Matt?
Yeah. Well, we found one spot you can wade. Nick wanted to wade again, and I wasn't going to argue him this time. After we fished for a while, we pulled onto this little island right up near the top.
Yeah.
And I had this this big current scene with it, some big eddies, and it was weird switching from lake mode into river mode again, and trying to like read the river for what it was. And we parked the boat and we walked up river, and I picked a spot where there was this, probably a 12 or 13 foot whirlpool eddy kind of area, and I was fishing it and I didn't catch anything, and I was making some casts out into the main current and swinging streamers. And Nick's like, oh, that spot looks really good, and I'm like, yeah, I fished it already, like nothing. So whatever, I go to walk past it, I'm like, I should throw another cast in there, and I throw a little 4-inch smelt looking pattern in there, and I'm just watching it. Like I made this thing up, just a simple craft for streamer, nothing special. And I'm just watching it kind of undulate in the current on a sink tip, and if a silver rocket doesn't shoot up from the bottom and just come out of the water and eat it, like straight up, and I'm like, oh my god, that's a brook trout. And I let him hit the water before I set the hook, and then I think I might have screamed a little bit. It came running, nobody had a net. We weren't expecting it. Anyways, got it up on the rocks, and it was like we didn't measure it, but a nice fish. Like
Nice.
high teens, 19, 18, something like that.
That's sick.
Nice fish.
Wow.
Small for the Nipigon.
Small, yeah.
Right.
But
Beauty fish, man. Jesus.
a solid 3-pounder, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no.
And that was the
nothing wrong
first
with
fish of the day kind of thing?
First fish, yeah. But it was a couple hours in, like we were working for him.
Yeah. So that's a good sight then. See a nice fish, like, 5
Yeah. And then we continued to work for him all day pretty much.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. I mean, after that, we kind of figured out where they were holding a little bit.
Yeah.
And one thing I think we realized was how tight to shore that they hold. You're in this big river with all this depth and current and big structure, but they're right on the bank.
So how deep does this river get?
I think some of the deepest
Hundreds
points hundreds of feet.
Hundreds of feet?
Yeah,
It is
it's not a normal
dammed.
river at all.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah. It's real deep.
Oh my God.
But they were probably, sorry?
The fish are quite tight to shore, and we were kind of watching the locals and what they were doing.
Yeah.
Some of them seem a little bit more suicidal than others.
I tell that story.
We watched a husband and wife team, and you know what? This might be the way to catch them. I'm not sure, but they were boating up with their little 9.9 motor up to the widest water where there's rapids everywhere, and then bombing down these and just throwing their jigs out as fast as they
Jesus.
could. And hammering
Over and over.
over and over again. And I mean, if you saw how fast this water's moving, you get a drift of about, I don't know, what is that, like 7
Seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back up again.
were they catching fish?
We didn't see them catching.
What were they doing? What's that?
They must though.
They were
They
risking their
definitely were
lives.
locals.
This is it's a high stakes game.
That's amazing.
Yeah, again, it's not like your normal river that you want to just
Yeah.
roll up at and then start wading. It's not like that at all. It's huge. It's more like the Niagara River.
Niagara, right? That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really, you need somebody operating the boat to hold you in position while another angler casts.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I know there's maybe like 1 or 2 guides in the area that could guide you on that river, but you definitely need your own boat. You
Yeah.
need, a competent operator. It's a serious.
Keep your PFD on, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were a little nervous going, to be honest. I know we talked about it previously, but we did have some success, and we did convince Matt's dad to go, because Matt's dad's not a
brook trout guy.
Okay.
He's never caught a brook trout, Matt.
No,
Is that
never.
okay? Because then we got into a couple, and then Matt's dad caught the biggest one of the day.
No way.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's a-
nice.
Yeah,
But now he's a
con-
brook trout guy.
And now
Yeah, he's definitely, well, he couldn't hold one at all, but but his first brook trout was over 20 inches.
Oh
So,
man, that's
like
sick.
spoiled.
Yeah.
Very
Seriously.
spoiled.
Not bad.
We put it in the net. I'm like,
but also
it was-
like the girth on this thing was like
football.
You could throw a spiral with it. It was,
Oh
Yeah.
Jesus. Eh? Just
yeah, it was a
fat-
solid
yeah.
fish. So he got wrecked for that because I'm like, oh yeah, back home, and an 8-incher is a nice one. So
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah. So yeah,
That's
that was
crazy,
day 3 pretty much.
I did not expect to hear that about the river, like big canyon walls and 100 feet deep. Like that's wild.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Big
it's a wonderful
system.
place. It's not hard to like put your imagination out there that there's world record brook trout still swimming around.
That's it, yeah.
A lot of people give the river flack because there is a lot those dams in place now, so it's no longer the river that it once was.
That's
So it used to be a lot smaller, and the hydroelectric dams have obviously caused a lot of backup of water.
Yeah.
But there's been tons and tons of conservation efforts on the river. So it's one of those places that, like, if you're looking for like big brook trout, now is probably the best time that you could ever hope to have. Like, going back in time is really not the best time to catch those big fish because there's been so much conservation efforts, and I wish I knew the biologist's name. There's an episode of The New Fly Fisher you can check out.
Okay.
They did a whole special on it, and it's a great time to go up there because, believe it or not that many people are going there because it's not your typical river. You need a boat, and you need to be able to operate it confidently to access those fish.
Yeah. And kind of know the water a little bit, because where they're holding, it's not like, oh, there's a nice little, pool behind a rock or something like that. I could just do a cast with a dry fly.
Yeah.
It's much more, it's much different.
A
That's
little bit more
interesting.
than that.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Oh, Jesus.
That's a
Can't
good
wait
day
to go.
3. That's a good day 3,
Oh,
though,
yeah.
right? I mean, explore a river.
Good
Well,
times.
It was a bucket list destination for me, just to
Yeah.
stand there and think that you're standing in the same water that world record brook trout were caught. I mean, you hear the stories of those days long gone, right?
100%, yeah. Yeah, it's such a wild place that, again, like, I don't know if, I mean, I'm probably wrong, but I don't know if it gets fished that much. I mean, I'm sure it does, but like, compared to other places in Ontario,
The river definitely gets fished more than the lake.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Lots of people fish the river. I wouldn't say, compared to Southern Ontario for sure. Like, comparing it to the, the lower Credit or the Niagara or whatever, it's
still a
not
very
even shaking
wild place.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool, man.
But yeah, we after that fish, I think we pretty much called it. We didn't fish much longer.
No, it was a long day, and the day before was such an exhausting day too, right? I mean, when you're away for a week, I don't care who you are, if you can't fish the entire time. Eventually,
we tried.
we really tried, and we pushed it so hard. And I thought I was really serious and could handle long days on the water, but then I met Matt, and he goes long days, and it's awesome. But a huge part of the fishing trip too is just like camaraderie, cooking, eating awesome food. I don't know if I ate so good on a fishing trip before.
That's awesome.
Usually I take care of all the food on all my fishing trips previously, but there's a bit of a shared duty this time, and it was awesome. Lots of steaks and.
So you go back on day 3 and you cook up a big meal, just hang out. That's an awesome day. That's a great day, right?
Yeah.
Have a big fire, bunch of beers.
It's awesome.
Did you cook anything you caught? Did you catch some walleye?
Yeah, we did. We did a couple shore lunches. Of course, unfortunately, all the walleye we caught were over the slot, way over the slot.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I mean, you could keep one over 18, but I'm not going to keep a 31-inch walleye.
Definitely not.
We didn't catch anything under 18 inches.
That's amazing.
It was scary. I'm sure if we really tried, we could have, but we caught the first day. It was, or second day, it was like 30 or 40 walleye, and every one of them was 24 or bigger. Like, they were just tanks. But we did keep a couple smaller pike that were that are definitely great to eat. I don't know how many people here have eaten pike, but
delicious.
I mean, you can't really tell a difference by anything else. They taste great. If it doesn't take that much work to clean them than any other fish. There's
really, because all I hear is that it's like like
Y bones.
Yeah.
It's no different than like even a salmon or a trout. Like, they have pin bones. So does
same with the walleye
pike.
even.
Same with the walleye. Yeah. So it's just a little bit of a different technique to get the meat off them. But yeah, we did have two really good shore lunches. Yeah.
That's fun, man.
Couldn't
you
beat
guys
that.
gotta have Matt cook you a pike because it's the full guide experience.
Yeah.
He does. I don't know. I think Matt, when he was guiding, was getting paid like I don't know how much the clients have to pay, but it was a high-end lodge.
A lot.
That is a lot. Pretty high-end lodge, and
I mean, the lodge I worked at was the only.
Yeah.
I mean, it's technically like an actual 5-star lodge on Lake of the Woods. It's the only one. That's considered 5 stars. And this was going back now like 15 years, but it was like $7,000 for 5 days. So
radical.
Pretty pricey, and then that's not tips. That's nothing. So they were all high rollers, but you had to spoil people. So do an awesome shore lunch mix with a lot of bacon and a lot of fish and a lot of fried potatoes.
Man.
Can't go wrong, right?
Well, that's what I like about that area, even just Northern Ontario. You can go and have a shore lunch, and it's responsible because there's, like you guys are saying, you guys are catching hundreds of fish. It's like, you keep a couple and eat them. I mean, that's just a great experience.
I love a good shore lunch, baby.
Yeah.
Can't beat it. And I mean, you keep a couple fish that are bleeders, like that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Be resourceful with it. Keep the ones that aren't going to live.
Exactly.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing though, I want to just kind of talk about that is Nipigon has some kind of crazy regulations. Not crazy, but they're amazing regulations.
Yeah.
The one is like single barbless hooks for all species.
No way.
Live bait.
On the whole lake?
Yeah, on the whole lake, whole river. So even for pike, like you have to fish with a single hook, barbless.
Oh wow.
Which I wasn't the first time I went there, and it's hard to think that oh my god, I'm gonna be fishing for these giant fish with 4 and 6/0 streamer hooks. Like they got to pinch the barbs.
Yeah.
But I don't think of any fish that we lost because of it being barbless.
Right.
These fish were, thankfully they were barbless, because I would say 90% of our pike were down the gullet. Like they were gone. You had to use jaw spreaders. Although, we found jaw spreaders on the last day. We didn't think we had any. they were in Nick's box all along. But open up their mouth with a second pair of pliers.
Yeah, exactly.
Get in there. The great thing about barbless is they were all swimming off strong. Instantly out. Most of them come off in the net.
Yeah.
Even for around here now, that's convinced me for all predatory species. Like, why would I even bother with a barb?
Yeah, I'm
like
with
they
you.
don't come off because of it. You have your 10 weight, you keep that line tight.
Exactly.
You're not going anywhere.
Like a fish is gonna come off. Like it's depending on the fish, but like
exactly.
A barbless hook. I mean, if you're losing any tension, like you're gonna lose the fish anyway. I mean, I'm with you on barbless. I think it just makes a ton of, because you never know like if the fish is gonna swallow it, and I mean, it just makes more sense.
And when you inevitably hook yourself, so
that's a good point too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes. With two guys casting in the same boat, it's definitely a concern of mine.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, wear those shades and.
Yeah. Well, that's
good. I kind of like that. They probably the region, they're probably just like, these pike are swallowing these flies. Let's just it's probably a thing.
I don't think it's the pike they're concerned about.
the brookies. I know. Yeah. It's the brookies. Yeah.
Everyone else, all the locals are like, you're fishing pike? Why?
Yeah. Right.
And when they see a fly rod and you tell them that you're fishing pike, they look at you like you have 4 heads.
Totally sideways, like, what the hell's a fly rod?
Yeah, exactly.
We got to touch on that though, that like pike are just such a good fly rod species, and Northern Ontario just has so much opportunity. I truly believe that it's like the Wild West, and that there's just so much out there that I'm not going to say it's not explored. Obviously, it's explored, but there's just so much opportunity out there. And here we are booking trips to where no one's booking trips anywhere right now. Typically, we're going to Montana, we're going to Patagonia, we're flying across the world for a trout or salmon. But here we have just 10, 12, 14 hours north, just like an untapped resource.
You're 100% a good point, man. Like
that's a really good point.
I think people don't see Ontario, like in other parts of the world, they don't see it in that sense. But like flying to Canada to go fish pike on the fly, like that sounds badass to me. And these fish are huge.
Yeah,
I think Americans do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot of Americans. Yeah.
Americans seem to get it more so than people in Ontario.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
They know what's up.
Yeah, I think but it's that thing, when's the last time you went to the CN Tower? Although, we're right here. We're never going to go, right?
I guess that's not a bad point. That's not a bad point.
You know what I mean?
I guess.
I think.
When's the last time you've been up an elevator,
I think people's eyes in Ontario are starting to open up to Northern Ontario, because it is wild, man. It is, like you guys are saying.
I hope so, because particularly now, and the time frame that we went to Nipigon, and there was just nobody really going anywhere, and a lot of these lodges up there, they've lost 90% of their business. American business is where their business is coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the border closures and everything like that, these guys are hurting, and I don't know, I just think that so many of us sitting here in Southern Ontario have that right at our doorstep, and it's not a hard trip to make.
No.
It's a very affordable trip to make. And I don't know. I personally just think that we don't have to go that far for.
Is it a lack of it's just not knowing? It's just an ignorant thing that they don't know that.
A
mix of that or
exotic.
If
they actually went, they would realize how exotic it actually is.
Bigger, the province is bigger.
That's probably why. That's probably why the Americans
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
come up here
And
because it's
it's-
like it's exotic to them, right?
I think it's that thing like it's in your backyard. I've already explored it. You
Yeah.
know, they assume they've seen it all.
Exactly,
You know, they go up
yeah.
to Muskoka and think that's Northern Ontario.
I fish the Kawarthas. Like I know what pike fishing in the Nipigon is. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
it's such a
it's
huge
nowhere
problem.
near.
That's what we found out, man. When we did
Yeah.
Hearst for the first time, we were like, "Holy shit! Like this province is huge."
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
fish some of those, even Temagami and Elk Lake, like even 6 hours from the city, and it's like, Jesus, these fish are the wildness of the province and the fishing that we can experience is crazy.
Yeah.
It's a whole other
Definitely.
experience. So it's I think that's a great point. Like you can have quite the adventure,
You can drive there.
Yeah.
and you can drive there, but it's still a big trip, Like
And
Oh no, for sure. But I mean, like, it's accessible.
Yeah, and I'm definitely, I don't know if my dad will listen to this, but I'm giving him a shout out. He drove the whole way, both ways,
Whoa.
without a rest. Like
Man, right
the
on.
only time that we felt nervous was about 30 minutes away from where we were stopping. He did put the truck in the gravel for about 5 seconds.
That's pretty good,
But,
man. That's pretty
yeah.
It's
good.
pretty good. Road warrior.
Yeah,
Long
definitely.
drive.
But
I love
yeah,
that. I
it's-
love
it's
I
way
love
up
a good
there.
drive, you know? I love
Yeah.
a good drive. You got your snacks.
Can't be
It
scared of a
flew
good
by
drive.
too. We just chatted fishing the whole time, and it was like next thing you know, we're there. We stayed up 24 hours. Like I don't think we slept.
Just
Like,
hyping
next
yourselves.
thing, we left at 5 or so p.m. and got there at 9 a.m. and we're still awake. Like it was bad.
I dig
But
it, man.
yeah, it's definitely accessible. That's the one great thing about Northern Ontario. You don't need to fly there. It was literally just a few $100s each for this trip. Like we weren't
Yeah.
spending a ton of money.
And that's another
um,
thing.
Yeah.
If you're on a budget, it's totally doable. Just find someone with a boat and convince them to drive you up there. Um,
Yeah. So that was day 3, but you guys were up there for how many days?
7
Oh, we're
days
still on day 3.
Yeah.
So we might have to. Well, the next 2 go by pretty quick though.
Let's go through the rest of the days in a kind of memorable moments type of way.
All right. Okay, so
Well, they
day
kind of
4.
were like the last couple, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, day 4 was like snow,
Mm.
Right.
high winds, couldn't get out
wild.
on the water.
We went up for an hour.
Yeah, went out for an hour.
That's wild.
And we just sat in the cabin for the rest of it and just sulked and read some good magazines, and
Yeah.
that was about it. And we
Chatted
did have a
fishing.
little- Chatted fishing, had some good scotch.
Nice.
Nice.
Enjoyed our day as much as we could. Day 5 was almost exactly the same, except the afternoon the weather did break. And we were, at this point, it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and we're like, well, we might as well go out for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And it was still raining. It wasn't snowing at least, and it was like +5. And we drove out to the spot we started out on the first day, and there was fish around. We were moving them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything crazy. We ended up working our way back into the river a little further than we did. I think. Oh, actually, no. It was about almost the same distance we did the first day, and we're just talking. And it was just lots of what we called Nipigon small pike. They were like 32s, 33s, like a decent pike anywhere else,
Decent,
but
yeah.
Nipigon small, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking, and I look down in the water, and I've got a monster behind my fly, like nose almost on it. And this was trying to imitate Nick's fly. I found an olive and white streamer in my box,
Yeah.
and I started throwing that thing religiously. And this thing was right on it, and it was just, I was to my leader, like couldn't strip it anymore, and just twitch, and it kept following it. And then it finally committed right at the rod tip, and it was nuts.
That's crazy.
Lifted into it.
Let me just project for 1 second,
Yeah.
Matt. Matt's what do you call it? His fish call is
tagline?
big fish. And so it attracts all the attention of the boat when he recognizes a big fish is in the area.
Yeah.
So we were all standing there with our rods dangling in the water, watching Matt sort of tease this pike into taking his fly, and it was all cool.
And they all saw it. They saw it eat and turn. And when
I
you've
love
got
that.
6 inches of line out, you can't strip set, so you trout set as hard as you freaking can.
Mhm.
And you do it again and again and again, just making sure it's in there.
Mhm.
And I knew it was a big fish. I just told my dad, I'm like, you got like one shot with this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how well it's hooked. And it came by the boat, and he hit it for a shot with a net.
Man,
that
MVP.
that was a big pre-spawn female, and it was what, 44 and a half, 44, 45, something like that. I can't even remember anymore.
I
Big.
don't know, but
was
it doesn't
big.
even matter. But it was
matter.
perfect,
Huge,
perfect,
just
yeah.
big and fat. Big female. Got in the water with it for some photos because it was just made for a great backdrop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
that ended up being my personal best pike ever. So not just on the fly rod.
Oh man,
So really cool to share
It's a
that
great
experience
moment,
with some friends in the boat.
That's good. The snow clears. You go out.
Yeah,
It's raining. You're like, meh.
go out for a bit, and then
It made the
that was-
day. Just made the day.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that's one of those.
and then
Yeah,
even watching your friend catch a fish like that, like
Yeah.
you don't need to catch one now. Like,
no,
yeah.
yeah, it was
And
a
then
special moment.
we
That's
were getting
awesome.
back to camp every night trying to like repair flies, because we had
Mhm.
our confidence flies, and I have a bottle of crazy glue, and we're trying to glue them back together, and
Yeah,
accidentally gluing your mouth.
totally.
That did happen.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, trying to put some glue into a tight spot, and then you like, scratch your lip, and then
Yeah.
your finger stuck to your lip. You're like, come on. But yeah, it was a really memorable time that day. It was cold, we were freezing,
I
but
love that.
did some good fish.
And then,
And then
That's adventure,
trying
man.
to think.
That's just
then
adventure.
that was our final day on Nipigon.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Next day. Yeah. So
Well, it wasn't supposed to be our final day.
It wasn't supposed to be, but it was.
Yeah.
It was.
And we had a rule around our camp that if the weather was good, we were going to make the long run out to our favorite spot, the spot that we had that produced
Epic day.
the most fish, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like you can't do it most days. So
Mhm.
we were kind of chomping at the bit, crossing our fingers, praying to the fish gods, please let us get back to this location.
Yeah.
And we had a bit of a dodgy weather forecast. We thought we could do it. Put my trust in my guide, and we made the run, and we did get there. And the weather was remarkably cooler. And I mean, that's another thing just to mention is that even though you go all this way to Northern Ontario and drive 14 hours, there's no guarantee that it's going to be the best day every single day, right? You have to
Yeah, exactly.
patience.
Yeah.
No matter what fishing trip you go on.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what species or where you're going. We got there, and it wasn't as good as it was that second day, but it was still really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And we had another really great day, a really long day, really put the time in,
And that was to get fish that day was all about slowing down. We
really
put on sink tips, and we were like really dredging bottom with the flies. We had next to no wind once we got to our spot, which was hilarious. It took us like 3 hours of pounding in the wind to get there. And then we get there and the wind dies completely.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was nice. Made for a nice ride back. But yeah, slowed right down with that big cold front. I think we ended up shrinking down the size of our flies, more natural colors. And that did work. It wasn't as Nick said, wasn't as crazy as the first real day out there. Well, we made it happen with a couple 40s in the boat. Well, actually more than that, but it was it was solid.
This wasn't 3 at a time.
Yeah, it wasn't 3 at a time. It was 1 fish at a time in the boat. And my dad always has this history when we're out fishing on trips. I drive the boat most of the time. He's more confident me driving it, whatever. And then he usually picks up the boat for about 10 or 15 minutes here or there and ends up hitting something. And that's exactly what he did. This time he dragged the motor through some muck, and all of a sudden it wasn't peeing out any water. And we tried cleaning it, and at this point we're 2 hours from the launch, so we're trying to clean it out with heavy fluorocarbon, like 100-pound fluorocarbon, sticking it through the motor, trying to clean it out.
Yeah.
It was stressful. Couldn't get it to piss any water.
Oh my god.
So luckily it was cool enough, and I think we were all kind of stressed, and we just said, well,
let's just fingers crossed.
Let's do it.
It would have been a long paddle.
It would have been a very long paddle. Yeah.
2 hours?
Yeah, it was wild at full, on plane, like almost 40 miles an hour. So like it would have been a long one.
That's big water.
So we took our time, about half throttle the whole way back, and made it back in one piece. And my dad was so confident. He's like, we'll drop the lower unit out tomorrow morning. We'll get it working. Every time I do that, no problem.
Yeah.
Morning came, we did that. Couldn't get it to work. No matter what we tried. So that kind of ended our trip on the lake. And we were all feeling kind of bummed because wasn't the weather perfect that day, Nick?
It was the best.
Of course.
No wind, flat calm. It was like warm. It was sunny, so the pike would have been just chomping.
Dude.
But I said, hey, we're up here.
Who cares at that point, though? Who cares?
We had a great trip, and I'm bummed. I'm still a little bummed though. I'm like,
it's one more.
It'd been great to get another few 40s, but
one more
whatever.
day. But you guys had your time, and it was great, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then just before we're packing up, and I'm like, Nick, have you ever driven along Lake Superior? Because we came up Highway 11 the whole way.
Yeah.
He's like, oh no, I haven't done that drive. And I'm like, okay, like, well, we could stop at some rivers like along the way maybe and do some fishing. And we're thinking about it, and then I'm messaging some friends, and it turns out like the St. Mary's Rapids were going off pretty good. And I'm like, have you ever fished the rapids? And he goes, oh no, never. I'm like, okay, let's go fish the rapids.
Yeah.
So we drove the 6 hours down. My dad's like, I'm not going to go fish. I'm just going to nap. And we parked, and me and him walked in. We ended up spending like 5 hours on the St. Mary's. Ran into John Giuliani, famous rapids guide there, chatted for a while. Actually ended up like looking at because we didn't have any like actual Atlantic stuff. He laughed at our setups because like I didn't have my spay rod or my switch rod. I had my 10-foot 8 weight, and I'm like, okay, I can make this work. I can swing with this. And he looks at the stuff. He's like, dude, sink tips here? Like, no way. The water's too clear.
Really?
And he's like, you need like 15-foot like Scandi leaders. So he ended up showing us all this, and then like laughing at our like what we would think of as like my favorite steelhead flies and stuff. And he's like, no, like salmon fry, small little salmon fry. So he gave us a couple flies, which was really rad.
Nice.
Guy was super nice, gave us some flies, told us even like where to go.
Oh, sick.
And we go out to those areas, we start swinging, and swinging's a low percentage game, but usually very memorable when you do get a fish. And nothing, no fish, not getting anything. Take a quick walk up the berm down the middle, and me and Nick are walking up towards the dam, and you see an Atlantic rise, and we're like, oh, and I'm like, okay. And I was in front of him. Nick's like, cast at it. So I go to cast, and of course the fish is like right on the surface, easy within access. And I get the huge wind knot in my guides, and it's just a mess. Like if this fish picks up my fly, he's going to break off my 8-pound tip. No problem. And I'm picking it out, and as I'm just about done picking it out, you feel the line tighten and start moving. And I'm like, oh no, like I got him. But luckily, I don't know, man. Fish God must have been smiling on me. Like the knot just pulled right out on its own. The fish went to run, and it just kept unknotting itself and through the guides. I started jumping, and ended up hooking my first Atlantic in the rapids, which was cool.
Holy shit!
So jumping all over the place. A few minutes, and we're walking down the berm. And if anybody's been there, if you're on that berm, there's nowhere comfortable to land a fish. The current's whipping by you. It's deep. You can't get in the water and wade in most spots to tail a fish. We didn't have a net. I get the fish on the berm about 20 feet down from me, and Nick's there staring at it. If that.
Matt started saying,
oh yeah,
I have a history with this place.
Yes. I psyched it up. Yeah.
Up like crazy.
I've hooked a bunch of Atlantics here. I've never landed one, all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And Nick's like, well, okay, well, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And I've never seen someone tail a fish that intensely.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It was like a grizzly bear just like grabbing a wild salmon out of a river.
That's awesome.
He put his hands on it and he had it. And I was like, holy crap. Like he actually got it. He was up to his elbows to tail that thing. And
that must have been a good moment.
Oh, and he pulls out like a solid 8-pound chrome Atlantic.
Must have felt pretty good, Nick, man. That must have felt good, right?
I mean, I just didn't want to lose the fish, to be honest.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It was just a big moment, right?
Yeah.
Totally. That was cool. What a cool way to kind of end the trip. We didn't expect it, but it ended up adding another species. And you can go up there in June and catch steelhead. We were doing that too.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. I didn't know that.
Multiple steelhead. Yeah, you're swinging.
It felt like the
crazy
bonus round of fishing on our end of our trip, really.
Yeah.
It did.
We didn't plan it. It wasn't expected.
Not at all.
I mean, again, everybody has known about St. Mary's Rapids.
Yeah, the pink salmon and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The unexpected is the thought of my life here.
It's such a cool way to,
definitely.
Such a cool way to round out such a already awesome trip.
Yeah.
Dang.
And making lemonade.
Making lemonade.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Making lemonade for sure. Love that.
I dig that.
Cool.
Yeah,
Great trip.
Great trip, guys. That's amazing. Dang.
Already planning next year.
Yeah, I can dig that. Guys, we got a Mitchie's Fishies, you guys.
Oh boy.
You're gonna Missy Fishies.
I've been dreading this. I'm excited but dreading.
I've never Mitchie's Fishy two people at once, but
it's
gonna happen today, baby.
How much do you guys drink during these things? Because I'm on beer number 4.
I'm gonna grab some scotch right now. That's what's happening. Yeah.
Been drinking. If I've got some Chinar going.
Chinar. I don't know what Chinar is.
That's a digestive. It's delicious. Very bitter. It's a bitter.
It's bitter?
Yeah.
Like a Montenegro kind of.
Yeah, exactly. But it's made from artichokes, so it's a little bit more. It's not as sweet. Also, still very sweet.
Okay.
I didn't have any beer.
Have you guys been fishing much, or?
I was in Temagami last weekend. I did a loop. I did a loop that took me into a lake called Blueberry Lake, which is not a very big lake.
No.
It was like bass paradise.
Yeah.
It was
That's what I remember
amazing.
from Monogamy, man. Just like we were fishing walleye, and I remember just like dropping the worm harness down and pulling up smallmouth. Like you didn't have to try.
No,
One after the other.
we hooked. I remember we were in you're in the canoe, right? So it's like you kind of when you hook a fish, it's just like you start drifting into places, whatever. Anyway, we're fishing. My friend Steve and I are fishing this back bay. We double up and kind of drift into this mini back bay with like it was a bit of a drop off, and we spooked 20 to 30 bass swam into the boat. Majority like a pound or two, but there were a few like tanks, absolute tanks. But yeah, Blueberry Lake was good, and then there was a lake called Castles. So yeah, starting
Castles is the good one. Yeah.
But yeah, no, starting to piece together tomorrow. Yeah, we've been fishing a bit. Yoma, you were on the Grant, and Mitch is at the cottage. So fuck, man, he's like.
Yeah.
Although you gotta try an anchor with the canoe, man. It's like a game changer for fly fishing out of the canoe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The best thing is, and I read this online somewhere, is just get a bunch of basketball nets.
Oh yeah.
Because they portage easy, right?
Oh,
Fill them
true.
full of rocks, tie a rope around them.
That's a good point.
One at the front, one at the back. It'll anchor you up on your spot, and then you just sit there in your canoe.
Oh, that's so smart.
It's kind of like a floating dock at that point.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, makes fly fishing way easier.
Yeah.
A lot of guys use chain. A lot of guys do use chains for their drift boat anchors.
Just throw ball chains out.
Yeah, they get like chain at like they cut chain at Home Depot or whatever, like big chain link.
I like the idea of
cheap
net.
if you snag up too.
Yeah, I like the idea of the net too.
Yeah. The net is a great idea because you're right. Portage is.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
Geez, I'm such an idiot, guys. A couple weeks ago, I was fishing in Quebec in a lake, and I had my full sinking line on because I was fishing probably 60 feet of water. No anchor or anything like that. I was in a kayak. Fishing kayaks are so fun. I love fishing in fishing kayaks. But I was just like being jackass. I was just like, man, it's got to be like 100 feet here. And I just kept letting sinking line out, and it just kept going. And I'm like, man, this is deep. It's not hitting the bottom. I'm
He's
such
moving.
an idiot and also like it is on the bottom, but the line is just falling onto the bottom of the bottom of the lake, and it tangled all around some sunken trees and stuff like that. And then I go to pull my fly, and it's doesn't move. I'm like, okay, here we go, right? So I start pulling on the line, and it's like not budging. Like, and I was using wire bite. I didn't have like any kind of shock system. It was just wire bite, and I was just like, I'm not gonna snag. So I'm pulling on this thing. The hook isn't bending, nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, my line is tangled. I'm yanking. It's not breaking. And I'm like, shit, man, I'm going to have to swim down here and like try to finesse this line around. And I'm like, I have no idea how deep it is. So I get some goggles. I get my like brother-in-law to bring me some goggles and another kayak. I throw them on. I jump in the lake. And then I'm just like, here we go. I get the pliers. I'm like, hold my breath. I just swim down and pulling on the line, swimming down as far as I could. And I must have gotten down, I want to say like 200 feet now. I was like 30 feet deep.
No, you went 30. 30's a lot.
Honestly, I was probably more like 15 feet, but I felt like 30. I was like, man, my ears started to pop. I felt the thermocline. Yeah. I'm like, man, I'm in another world right now. And I couldn't see the bottom. I couldn't see the bottom. So I had to cut my sinking line. Yeah. I had no choice. I know. I was like, oh, man.
Well, you can convert it into some level T sink tips, maybe.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I was so bummed. I probably only lost like 20 feet of line, but I was like, shit, man. So I want to get some scuba gear and go back just to get the line. I'm going to do it, but I was like, that was the worst.
Oh, brutal.
Oh, no. Yeah. Wait, this wasn't a new line, though.
No, this is a sinking line I've had but it was relatively new. I've only had the sinking line for.
Is that the one with all the slits in it? Like, because remember yours was broken.
Well, no, that's my loop rod. I found out my loop rod's actually cutting my fly lines, but no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I put a new floating line on that for the Esnagami trip, and 2 days in, it split the line. So I'm like, it's my rod because it split a redfish line, it split this line, it split my Attawapiskat line. So I think it's the guides or something. Something's happening there because
just take like a cotton swab and you can run it through your guides and you'll find like your burrs that way.
See, that's
works really well.
That's what I got to do.
That's smart.
Yeah. But anyways,
Very smart.
That's my
I wanted
recent
that right
fishing
now,
habit.
actually.
Brutal.
Next time you got to follow Matt Martin's leader formula, which is 40-pound butt section, little piece where there's a little breaking point of 20-pound to your 26-pound white tippet, and you got a breaking point on.
See, that's the key, man.
That's normally what we do.
That's the key.
In Nipigon.
That's where Nipigon. Well, that's exactly right, because you're using heavy gear, and it's like, well, if I get snagged, I don't want to lose my line.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. You don't want to lose your line.
No, I only had one line with me. I was worried about that.
Oh yeah.
Well, one 10-minute line. I had a bunch of lines.
Yeah. No, I mean that would and also like, don't just let out 300 fucking feet of sinking line, because it's not sinking
in 50 feet of water.
Like you're tangled. You're just tangled around everything.
You're just tangled. You just got backing.
I don't know what I was doing.
I
don't know what I was doing, man. It was weird.
I don't know.
I was like, it's so deep here. And it's like 60 feet. And I'm like, I got like 300 feet of line. Anyway. Mitchy's Fishies 5. Let's do this thing, It's time for Mitchy's Fishies 5.
You know, I listen to this podcast all the time. I thought I'd have an answer for these.
Yeah, same.
Oh, yeah? Well, geez,
There's one of them that I thought about. I can't remember the name.
Okay, well, I'm excited. I'm excited. I like when people think about them a little bit.
It's okay. Mitch still has to write them down before every podcast. So it's not like you're the only one who forgets about them.
I know. I have them open on my desktop right now. I don't know why I can't remember these friggin'
We'll try not to be so long-winded here. You guys are gonna have to edit this way down. So.
Oh, it's all good. No, you know what? I think I'm cool with this being a long show.
It's two people, so it's a special thing.
Yeah,
it's
I think this is great.
You got
we're special.
Exactly.
After some of your like real famous guests,
come on,
following
baby.
up with Rosenbauer. Come on,
Rosenbauer.
You can't follow Tom.
No,
I love Tom,
there better be
man.
one between us.
I'm like Tom. What's your favorite fish? He's like, damn, Mitch, I don't know. I can't give you an answer. I'm
I
like,
hate that question.
come on. I love Tom. Great. Yeah, he's a good guy. Okay, you guys. Yeah, here we go. Okay, let's start with Matt. Let's go with Matt first, and then we'll ask Nick. Matt, what is your favorite fish and why?
It's so tough. I think I might have to break it down into two categories because I'm so torn.
That's cool.
You know, I'm going to be straight up. I love my pike. I love them on a fly.
Nice.
All my old friends that are muskie guides are probably just rolling their eyes right now. But on a fly, it's probably the most interesting fish that I fished for. It's the visual aspect of it, the strength of them, the flies you throw, and the fact that they're one of our native species, which is really rad. That is underappreciated in a lot of areas. So yeah, they're my favorite warm water fish. But in cold water, who can hate a big beauty brown trout?
Yeah,
I know it's probably been said so many times, but there's just, I haven't been out for them all that much lately. And then I went out once with Nick a few weeks ago, and I think I went out like twice a week.
Yeah.
For the 2 or 3 weeks after that, because I was just like so hooked again.
Yeah.
You know, that I lost a couple big fish, and it's just like you get torn up, and you just keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know what you mean.
pike
man.
and brown trout.
I think there is something different about browns, because I've been seeing a lot of browns in my feed lately, and I'm just like, God, I wish, I've been seeing a lot because I follow a lot of people upstate, and I'm like, I just want to go fish New York or Pennsylvania so bad just to go catch those fish, because there's just something about brown trout that's just unique. But I think that's the first time we've heard pike as a favorite species. I feel like it is. Maybe.
Well, aside from maybe us saying it.
Yeah, except from us. Aside from us, I think so.
Pike are cool, man. Pike are cool. Underrated. Good. They're so underrated. People are like,
I think you made a good point there, man. Like it's something I'm starting to think about a little bit more. Is it's a native species.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's indigenous.
I mean, we get wild browns in only a few of our rivers, and they get pounded, but they're still not native. You know, they were brought over at some point, and they get so much more glory than pike, which survived for millions of years on this continent and many continents, to be fair.
Beautiful fish.
But yeah, definitely.
It's a beautiful, truly wild fish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of teeth. They're angry.
Yeah.
They're picky sometimes.
Yeah.
You get them post spawn, they're always aggressive. You get them during the spawn, good luck. You can put a fly right on their nose, and they're likely not going to take it. But you get out there pre and post spawn, and they're aggressive. They follow. They don't really jump, but they come to the surface and shake their head. They run. Not as far as a steelhead, but that 10 or 12 feet of line they pull is harder than any steelhead I think that I've caught.
Yeah,
for that 10 or 12 feet.
They're quite pretty.
And they're
pretty.
gorgeous.
And they're gorgeous.
Their tails, they've got those cool worm-like markings and the spots, and they're really cool looking.
Yeah.
Nick, you said it well too. Like a submarine coming out of the depths when you catch a big pike. Like if you haven't done it on the fly, You got to do it because it's talk about a heart attack. Like Jesus.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I dig it. Nick, what's your favorite fish? Why? What's your favorite fish and why?
I want to be taking Matt's answer here, but I kind of have two.
Yeah.
I'm always torn with this question because I absolutely love brook trout. I feel like they're our native fish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Man, I spent like 10 years just obsessing over brook trout and particularly backcountry lakes, those remote places that sort of feel like, you're the only person to ever go there. Trying to get a map out, pick out the remote locations, putting the sweat in to go find them. I mean, there's nothing like brook trout, but if I was going to see my favorite, it's obviously brown trout.
Yeah. Salmographer, yeah.
Listen, man, they occupy my thoughts at all times. And no matter what, the more I fish for them, the more I realize that I just don't understand them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are so finicky.
Mhm.
I love that first of all, they're pretty accessible for me.
Yeah.
I love that you can find a brown trout, you can see it once, and you can know that it's there every single time you go fishing, but you are not going to catch that fish.
Yeah.
Right? You know he's there,
Yeah.
but you are not going to catch that fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so territorial.
They're very territorial. I wish there was more protection around the brown trout in Ontario. We don't have very many brown trout streams in Ontario. There's a lot of efforts to restore brook trout populations because there are native fish. There's a lot of efforts to restore Atlantic salmon populations because, again, they were native at one point in time. Browns kind of just get a miss, and I just think they're such a great sport fish. I wish more people who are in charge of decisions also felt that way.
I think that's a really good point to make, man. Like, because you're right. Like, so many people love. It's like one of the number one target species in Southern Ontario is brown trout on the fly. Everybody loves fishing brown trout.
I listen to a lot of your shows, but what's the common theme that keeps coming up in this question? It's brown trout.
It's brown.
Trout.
Oh,
Everyone
yeah.
always says brown.
Everyone says brown. Yeah.
Right?
Something about
And
them.
they're stunning to look at, right? Every one of them is different. I think that's a really big part of why people like them.
Yeah.
Is that each one has its own individual characteristics. You can catch a lot of smallmouth. A lot of smallmouth look the exact same. Smallmouth are an awesome fish in their own right. I'm not knocking them, but
Totally.
each individual large brown trout is like its own fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Different shades of brown. Some of that
Some
really
of the
blue cheek.
bright
Sparse
yellow,
spots,
some-
tight spots. Yeah. Golden brown versus a little washed out. Yeah, you're right.
Well, and the other thing about browns is that there's so many different ways you can catch them. Certain styles are in vogue right now. A lot of people are Euro nymphing for browns. A lot of people are throwing huge streamers for browns. You can catch them on like a woolly bugger, a swung classic wet fly. You can catch them on a classic Catskill dry fly.
Yeah.
You can catch them in every single style of fly fishing, and whatever suits you best. You'll probably have success with browns.
And that's an important distinction too, because a lot of people want to fish a certain way. And
yeah. Oh, totally.
You know?
I mean, everybody's got their own style, right?
exactly.
I mean,
Browns will
a lot of there's no refish. A lot of the old school guys are going out there and just waiting for that classic hatch to happen and to catch that big hook-jawed brown on a dry fly. And I think that's really special to have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You're right. We should give more love to the Browns in Southern Ontario. 100%. Great. Well, I love that. Okay. Number 2, Matt, let's go with you. If you could fish anywhere in the world right now, it's the best time of year to go there. COVID doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Where would you go and why would you go there? Although definitely pop that Deanson Scotch bait.
Yeah. I was like,
That's even harder than favorite fish. It's I think it might have to be saltwater. I don't get to go down as much as I want, but I have been enough to know that I love it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to beat it. Those blistering runs,
Yeah.
even if you're just fishing for jacks and you're into your backing so deep in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm gonna have to say somewhere that I've never been before, but I want to go, and that's gonna be like the Seychelles.
Oh, mama,
it's the second.
mama.
It's the second one, 2 days.
We did a show
No
last
way.
night. And,
Yeah.
And Buddy said Seychelles too. And we're
Oh,
like,
no way.
Yeah.
No, but how can you not say
How could you
Seychelles?
not?
Like,
How could
You watch
not?
those GTs and it's like, that's just something I want to experience. Like in the Gulf, like I'm out there fishing for jacks and, you get a 10 pounder and you're stoked on it. But imagine like 50 or 60 pounder that's as wide as a door.
In the Seychelles too,
In
the Seychelles.
water,
Beautiful.
in the Seychelles, like
Beautiful
gorgeous
place.
water. Yeah.
That's where they did the flip flip flops on the hook. The hook
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, geez, you get a
they
hook and a
bird
flip flop.
fly. Yeah,
That's awesome, man.
that's the dream for sure. It's definitely probably my one real bucket list destination for sure.
I think
Thinking about that
I
spot
think
for a while.
one of these days, all the anglers, we're all gonna just descend upon the Seychelles, and it's gonna be the most
Yeah.
amazing fly fishing bonanza.
Yeah,
Whoever wins the lottery first.
Exactly,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That's the
we'll just-
problem.
One big SoFly trip. We're all just
one
gonna
big
fly to
SoFly.
Seychelles.
We'll wrap a plane in SoFly blue.
Seychelles
Well, just,
2050.
Exactly.
I love that, man. That's great. That's great. Nick, where would you go? Anywhere in the world, best time to go. Where would you go?
Nope. No COVID.
No COVID. It doesn't exist. That'd be awesome. First of all, that
Mm.
where we hope to get to.
Yeah.
For me, it would be I don't know. I'm tempted to say of like where I want to go.
Yeah.
Which is unknown or somewhere I've previously been.
Yeah.
If I could just pick one because I've been there and I know the predictability of it.
Mhm.
I took a trip like 10 years ago, over 10 years ago now, for Arctic Char up in Nunavut. It was like it was like a crazy bucket list.
Arctic Char.
Right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but last in the specific location, the camp I went to was like, all right, back up a second. I'd wanted to go there since I was like a 10-year-old kid, been fascinated with char, but my parents were like, we can't afford fishing trips like this. It's crazy money, right?
Yeah.
I used to just like obsess over char and Shea River and things like that. But when my dad, he was turning 50, I was a paramedic, making my own money and stuff like that. I found a trip that was like a quarter of the cost of these other places. You had to eat things like caribou and muskox and stay in this like little
That's awesome.
plywood camp which just been closed. And it's only open for 2 weeks out of the year, and it's the last 2 weeks of August because you know that the char are coming through that little river at that time of the year, and that to me was some of the most phenomenal fishing I've ever had.
Sounds like a really special place.
Really
Yeah.
special place.
Imagine that.
I got to do it with my dad, who introduced me to fishing and everything, and it was wild. It was the first couple of days where they started trickling in, and you're catching, whatever 10 char a day, and then it got up to 20, and then it got up to 50, and to 40, and then it just got out of control after that.
Oh man.
And, you weren't the red char that you often see. They were actually the chromers.
Yeah.
Chrome. Yeah.
Biggest ones we caught were like, my dad actually got the biggest out of the whole camp, which was interesting because it's about over 20 pounds.
That's a beautiful fish, man.
Yeah, and I mean, Matt will tell you, I'm not much of a, I don't swing flies too often, but up there, that's exactly what you do. And as long as it's pink, you're gonna get them.
Oh man.
And it was phenomenal fishing. So for me, it would be Arctic char, up in Nunavut in close to Cambridge Bay.
Oh God, that sounds so cool.
Sounds
so
Talk about north.
special.
Yeah.
North.
Yeah.
That's a first. That answer.
That's special,
Definitely
man.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, very special, unique answer.
Might be a first.
They're a phenomenal fish.
Yeah, char.
They're plentiful too.
That's the cool thing, like how plentiful they are, because that's what I've heard. That's what I've seen, at least what I'm seeing online and stuff. But
it's just they're hard to get to.
Yeah, because it's big schools of fish running down giant rivers, right? That's basically what we're talking.
Yeah, it's a big river, kind of like I would say the most similar river that I've seen is kind of like the lower end of the Saugeen, like near Denny's Dam. It's big, wide. You'll never be able to walk across it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to because the fish are very close to shore.
Yeah.
And if it's a pink spay or pink woolly bugger, it doesn't matter as long as it's pink.
Yeah.
You're gonna hook up on.
Cool.
I mean, at the time I was there, it was almost every cast. So
Jeez.
you stop fishing when you're tired.
That's so cool. That's so
I
cool.
love that.
Oh,
That's
rad! I can dig that.
That's my choice anyway.
Yeah, I can dig it. None of it is a place we should all go, I think, and experience one day.
First stop the Seychelles.
And then,
And then the
rip to
SoFly
Nunavut.
jet goes back to Nunavut.
Come
before we
on,
go
Lotto
home.
649. We're gonna do this thing. Okay, Matt, number 3. What is your best or favorite fishing memory?
Man, they just keep getting harder. It's crazy. Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Anytime I think I get to spend on the water with friends or family, that's maybe not the fish. It might just be the moment.
Yeah.
I even got to spend a nice morning on the water chasing carp with Nick a few weeks ago, where it was just like such a calm morning.
Yeah.
And although we didn't really get into any fish, it was just like this is why I love this sport, you know?
Yeah.
So I would have to say, probably fishing with my dad. Learning, you know, I think the first trip he took to actually put a fly rod in his hand was we went to Pennsylvania a few years ago.
Nice.
He's a diehard conventional angler. He doesn't hate fly fishing. He just, let's say he doesn't have the coordination for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, set him up, got to go fish some of the famous rivers in Pennsylvania, like Spring Creek. And that was kind of where we started. And you know, setting him up with a Euro nymph system, kind of teaching him how to do it in some pretty perfect water for it, and then me walking away and then just kind of like looking downstream, and then like boom, he lifts up into a fish, you know. And then like the guy that taught me to fish is down there smiling and having a good time.
That's cool.
That's cool.
There's so many. Like, I mean, that's just one that comes to mind.
That's a great memory. That's awesome. I think that's
Spring Creek's a cool place.
Spring Creek's great. You know, it gets a lot of pressure, but has a crap ton of fish.
And he taught you how to fish, but he's not a fly fisher, and then you had him on a fly rod. That's a great, you know, cycle right there.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I love it.
Totally. Short and sweet.
Yeah, man. No, I got to see Pennsylvania, dude. I'm just thinking about the
Lots
states
of fish.
these days.
Lots of fish.
It's you know what, Mitchie? I'm telling you, it's your place. Like it's like the pipe, it's the bamboo rod, it's
Drive to Bellefonte and you will blend in, and it's not unusual to see fly rods on the racks on the front of vehicles driving to the river.
So cool.
You don't get.
I love that, man. I love that. That's what I loved about Montana too. Is
the culture of it.
It's
and
like everyone's got drift boats in the parking lot, you know?
Yeah, and like you can say, I'm going fishing, but you don't have to specify fly fishing.
Yeah,
I love
just
that.
assume it, right? Yeah.
Like, here it's like I'm going fishing. Oh yeah, I'm like, oh no, like fly fishing. Like, oh, what's that?
Like, oh, what's fly fishing?
Down there, it's like, oh yeah. If you said spinning, they'd be kind of looking at you sideways.
Yeah. It's a great place, man. How can you go wrong with that?
Cool. Yeah.
And that's what I want to say is like I really appreciate what you guys are doing, because here in Ontario, I mean, Mitch, I think I sent you guys an email when I heard that there was an Ontario fly fishing podcast, because it completely blew my mind.
Yeah.
I've been fly fishing quite a long time.
Yeah.
Didn't know that other people did this thing, particularly my age bracket.
Yeah.
Right. Because everybody, I was young, everybody was an old man smoking a pipe on the riverside, yelling at people walking through dry fly water.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch does that, but
but to hear that there was an Ontario like fly fishing culture podcast that was emerging was I don't know. I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. I know Joe's part of that too. Like holding those like nights for like the the beers and flies or
flies and flights.
Flies and flights. Yeah.
Always a good time.
Well,
and I think I'm over here in Hamilton, but I wish I could attend those things, because like I don't think that's essential to keeping this. We have a very small, tight knit fly fishing community here, and
totally
what you guys are doing is like you guys are right in the middle of it.
Oh, thanks, man. We appreciate that.
Man.
Shit,
Appreciate
like, you know,
that,
like, we just want like we're not out here being like, you know, we know everything about fly fishing, blah blah blah. We just want everybody to kind of come together and have fun. At least the people that are like minded and want to have that. We're gonna do more fly tie nights. We'll come out to Hamilton. Shit, we'll do something in Hamilton.
Yeah, man. We gotta do a brewery tour.
Yeah.
Yo,
cool.
Yeah, there's lots.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, Hammer has some wicked restaurants, man. Like good food.
Go there, go up to the Laura Brewing Company on the Grand.
That'd be fun, man. Do some tie-in. There's so many things we could do. But yeah.
There's so many things we could do.
Appreciate that. Absolutely. Nick,
what's your...
what's yours, man? What's your best fishing memory?
Hold on. Nick, what's your favorite fishing memory?
All those got into the scotch. I'm drinking scotch too. I got the Oban going over here, man. It's that time of night. What's your best or favorite fishing memory, Nick? What do you got?
I'm gonna try to take a really long story and make it super short. I can almost like pinpoint the moment that I fell in love with fishing.
Okay.
And I was 12 years old, and my grandma was dating this random guy, and he was like one of these old bush type dudes who went into Algonquin Park and knew the whole thing like the back of his hand, and knew where all the brook trout locations were, and just like a really cool guy. And my dad and I became friends with him, and the relationship with my grandmother never worked out. But I never had a grandfather. My grandfather's died before I was born or when I was very young, and I sort of adopted this guy as a grandfather.
Yeah.
So my dad and I would go fish with him 2 times per year, and he'd have these crazy fishing stories of fish towing him around in his canoe.
Yeah.
That to a 10, 11-year-old just sounded like the craziest thing.
Oh, the coolest thing,
And
man.
one day we were out in the canoe together because we'd fish 2 times per year, once in May, once in September. So once for trout, once for bass. And he'd often say, if you went right across this point, there might be like trout. And I hooked into a fish like the ones that he had often described. And it ended up being the largest fish I've caught in Ontario to date. And it was a massive, massive, massive lake trout. And my dad was in the boat. He was in the boat. It was like an absolute like victory of the lake.
Wow.
And it ended up being a huge, like 22-pound lake trout.
Holy crap.
And at that moment, I knew
22 pounds?
Yeah, and the lake was tiny. It was like a couple kilometers long. There's one spot of the lake that held lakers. And it was just outside Algonquin Park. And from that moment on, I just like knew that I was going to fish like crazy.
See, that's a great story, man, because I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to those stories we all hear where it's like, oh, you know, that old guy that fishes a lake. He's like, I've caught giant lake trout in this lake just over there with a worm. And it's like, yeah, right, buddy. Like, when we're kids, we're like, yeah. And then when we get older, we're like, it's probably like a fall fish or something, right? But the fact that you actually stuck it, like, that's crazy.
Well, he was one of these people that he died a long time ago, but he's one of these people that, just everything he did in his life really kind of like stuck with him.
Yeah.
To experience that moment with him in the boat, my dad in the boat, like it was perfect. So that's the one.
That's cool.
That's good. Hemingway himself couldn't have told that story better there, Nick.
That is an awesome
Whoa.
Wow.
Young man in the lake, as they say. I like that. That's a good story.
That's an ultimate compliment right there.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good. Okay, Matt, number 4, Mitchie's Fishies 5. Why do you fly fish? What do you get out of fly fishing?
I think it's the one activity, sport, whatever you want to call it, that continuously challenges me. I never can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You're out every day. It's different. It's the weather. The fish are in a different mood. They're in a different location. You can go to the same river that we all fish it. You can walk it at the same time. And one day you think you've mastered it. You've got multiple big browns out of it. You've seen big fish, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you go back another day and you're just like, what happened? Like, why aren't I finding anything?
Yeah.
It's that also brings a sense of like grounding for me, that it's like you get into this like busy, hectic world of work. And then, some people are going home on their weekend and like, working in the garden or whatever to relieve their stress. And like me, it's like, I just want to go walk, and I want to walk with a fly rod in hand and like try to be, I can't think of a better, more direct interaction with like Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Like you're actually trying to fool Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Like there's not many other activities out there.
It's true.
That that's what you're doing. And for me, my favorite part about fly fishing has always been like, first time you get to put your hands on that fish, look at it up close, forget the photos. Like photos are awesome. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But like the first time you get to put your hands on it, unhook it, and then like feel that like actually the muscle like twitching when you're holding it in the water, trying to keep it, breathing and all that kind of stuff before your photo. And then when you almost like, it's almost like your pet for a minute, you're sitting there holding it, you're caring for it, and you're just letting it, you're turning it free again. Yeah. And you're like, see you next time, I hope.
Yeah. You're connecting.
It's just, it's just no other way. I think that any activity that I can do that brings that connection to earth, and not to get too spiritual or anything.
No, I think you should. I think you're right.
But it's like the only thing out there that, can help really calm me down when I'm going through some rough points in life. And it's something that's always been there for me, It never judges. The river never judges.
And it never changes.
It teaches you something.
Yeah.
Every time. You always learn something. You think you've got it. You don't. It humbles you.
It's humbling.
Whether it's the river, the lake, whether I'm fishing for brown trout or freaking carp, like Nick can attest to that. I went out the week before, me and him went carp fishing, and we nailed them up in the shallow water, and I took him out, and it was just like we spent all day walking and walking and walking and couldn't find a fish. These things are supposed to be dumb, and we just and you just feel like at the end of the day you're like, well, it wasn't a bad day still. You got to out there, you got to get some exercise, you got to see some cool whether it's other species of fish or mammals or whatever, and really big thing for me now is trying to really live in the moment while I'm fishing. Yeah. I feel like I've rushed a lot of the time just to get that big fish, get a picture. And then this past year, I think I've really tried to take a breath when I'm walking up the river, when I'm walking up the trail to the river, when I'm walking through a big meadow or something, and really absorb what's going on around me, just the only way to really chill and get ready for the next week.
That's
For me,
great.
anyways.
No, I think that's
That's
great. I think that's
Yeah.
great, man. I feel like that's kind of like the more seasoned or wise an angler you become, the more you sort of slow down and take things in, you know?
Yeah. I heard a
Yeah.
really cool analogy once where like an angler always starts out wanting to catch any fish. It doesn't matter. Just want to catch something, worm in a bobber or whatever, catch anything. And then it's about catching, a big fish. You want to always catch a big one.
Mhm.
And then it's about catching the fish. There's one that you're going for. You're spending your whole day going for that fish. And then eventually you evolve to the point where you just want to be fishing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there,
I love that. I love that.
which
That's
is,
great.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's such a sweet way to look at things.
yeah.
Nick, my friend, why do you fly fish? What is it? What do you get out of fly fishing?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and
Yeah.
even from like way back when I was like pretty young, and I'd drive 2-3 hours for a couple hours of fishing, and then turn around and drive right back home. And why the heck am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I've never come up with an answer other than it just makes me happy.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Just
Love
happy.
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I've thought about this so much. I can't even tell you. Like, I have no real good answer.
Yeah.
I like it, and it makes me super happy. And there's nothing I'd rather be doing with spare time.
I think about it too, man. That's why I think why it's a Mitchie's Fishies. But I love that it's just it makes you happy. It's just an innate thing. It just fills you with joy.
I think about it every time I'm on the water.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Tamagami on Saturday, we were like, was my buddy Steve, and yeah, and like I don't know, we're just having like one of those days where just like couldn't keep fish off your
Yeah.
line, and I was just like floating around, drinking a beer and like just like laughing like kids,
Mhm.
and it was just like I don't know, it was just like
How do you
like,
beat that?
I was like,
again, right? Like no other part of life is really like that, where you're just
Totally.
having a good time for the sake of having a good time.
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
makes sense.
yes,
You can have a field day.
Yeah,
You just go
yeah.
out and do your thing.
yeah, you're just like, ooh,
Yeah.
it's a fish, I don't know,
Yeah,
like, it's kind of
exactly.
funny,
Yeah, I think it's cool too, Matt, the way you said like it's doesn't change. Like it's kind of the way it always is. The fish are always where they are. The water sounds the same as it always will. It's kind of a constant in our lives, and it's kind of a nice thing to have as a hobby because what other things can you really say that are like that? Yeah, it's true. I like that. I can dig it. I can dig that. This is the fifth one. Fifth Mitchie's Fishies 5. And this is always our favorite one because like we keep saying we're gonna make a book one day and put everybody's answers in here, and we will.
You guys hear my drum roll?
Telling you we will. I'm telling you we will. But Matt, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be?
If you had to ask Nick, it would probably be a Frenchie.
Nice. Oh, great fly. Great
fly.
fly.
Every time we go out,
One of my faves.
yeah, every time we hit the water, we're out trout fishing. What do I start with? Frenchie. It's definitely up there. I'm going to go to a little bit of it. I take a different path on this. I'm going to go a little bit to steelhead. And there's one fly that anybody that's swung with me knows I throw. And it's funny how you get these confidence flies. And often it's your own take on a pattern.
Yeah.
You've adjusted something, you've played around with it, and you've caught a few fish on it. And then all of a sudden with swinging, it's, like I said, it's not a high percentage game. It's just about keeping your fly in the water. And it's an orange and white intruder. Super random, orange cone, not lead eyes. And I will swing that thing all day long, whether it catches fish or not. I have a box of 40 different other tubes or intruder flies in the box, every other color. But I picked that up, and orange and white. Yeah.
The creamsicle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, with a cone. That's the key. With a cone, no eyes, no lead eyes, anyways. And that has put me and so many other people I know that have just started swinging on their first fish.
Yeah.
I mean, not to go off topic, but like, kind of like another great memory would be one of the first times I took my wife ever steelheading.
Yeah.
And now a wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. And I rigged her up with a switch rod and I put on this fly, and I'm like, I'm going to go down where there shouldn't be any fish, and I'm going to put you on fish. Like, it was the spring, you could see there was fish in this run.
Yeah.
And I taught her how to snap T, and it took a little while, and maybe 30 minutes, and she got it. Could get a cast out 30, 40 feet, perfect. So I get her going, like, just cast straight across, let it go down, pick it up, do it again, over and over, and take a couple steps in between.
Yeah.
I walk down 100 feet and she's like, I'm on bottom. And I look over and her rod tip's just pounding, just like and I'm like, her hand's on the handle of the reel, like wouldn't like let go of the reel. I'm like move your hand. And the drag starts screaming, and I was like, oh my God, that's so good. And then luckily enough, 5 minutes later, I also got one on the same fly. That orange and white intruder, I think, would be my all-time go-to steelhead fly, and it just, I think, makes me up because it's one that it's not a true intruder. Like, I've done so many weird things to it. Yeah. Everyone sees it and they're like, that's not an intruder. Like, it's a variant.
What's the material? Like, is it marabou and?
Yeah, so I do use Rhea, or really thin ostrich. Yeah. But it's got a lot of other stuff in it. Okay. It's you just got to see it. I don't know.
Send us a picture, baby.
I'll send you some photos. It's on a tube. A lot of guys tie intruders on shanks, so that's one that's cool. A little weird. It's on a cone, so it rides higher in the column. That's cool. You're not balancing bottom. You're not snagging with it. Yeah. But I run that fly. I think there's one that I have in my box that's actually has no, like, it's only maybe got like 3 strands of Rhea left on it. It's caught so many fish, but somehow it still works. I have no idea.
That's awesome.
Yeah, love that thing. I
love that. That's a great answer. I love that.
That's a great answer. I gotta find that later.
I have one of Matt's flies. He tied it for me, but I have a fly box of like fly boxes that are flies that I don't fish because other people have given me. The Hall of Fame ones. Even though I haven't fished it, but I know that's like Matt's special fly, so I save it. I'm like, this is the Matt.
The Matt Martin.
I
love it.
Nick, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be? I need to know.
This is the one that I thought about, and I mean, I don't know. I'm not like confident in my answer here, but I mean, there's probably no wrong answers.
Not
really, right? Okay, so the one that I think that I gotta pick is the very first question you asked today was how I got started fly fishing, and it was because my dad dragged me out to the river when I didn't really like fly fishing because he would catch fish and I wouldn't catch fish. And I'll tell you why he was catching fish. It was because we'd go to the Grand in Ontario and he would read this old school like fly tying manual, and my dad works construction and he has like really rough hands, and he'd try to tie this fly that for some reason he liked it. Took a couple of different materials, but we didn't have the right hook, we didn't have the right whatever, and so he just made do with the beginner fly tying kit we had at home to tie this fly. Tied it like 5 sizes too big, whatever. And it was called the Teleco nymph. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this fly. It's out of Tennessee. It's not the most common fly. It's essentially a nymph. It's a body of yellow floss, peacock pearl rib, and peacock pulled over the top to form like a kind of wing case. And then a brown hackle around the collar. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Teleco nymph. Yeah.
Yeah. So he tied that really big, really bulky, lead wire underneath it. It was ugly, and for some reason, that's it right there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's a neat.
Do it again. Can you show it again?
Ours didn't look that nice.
Oh, right.
I'll send you one of his because I got a box with him. And so anyway, my dad tied this fly, and this thing held like all the special magic powers to catch fish. We didn't know anything about matching the hatch. We didn't know a single thing about fly fishing. My dad knew that when it came to fly fishing, you should do wet fly swing because he Atlantic salmon fished once in his life. So he'd go out to the Grand and wet fly swing this Teleco nymph, and he could catch fish like crazy. Little did we know, it's a perfect representation to caddis. And so we didn't know what we were doing. So we would go out there and swing these Teleco nymphs in the river and catch fish like crazy. We didn't know why.
Yeah.
And I love that. For me, this big, bulky fly just held like this magic fish catching power that no other fly did. Yeah. And I got to pick that one because that was like,
that's a great answer.
Whole sport. So
I love that.
Yeah, and my dad hasn't tied flies in probably like, I don't know, 10, 15 years now. But I have a whole box of his tied Teleco nymphs.
Oh, yeah.
I don't fish them. I don't even fish that fly anymore.
That's awesome.
But, I don't know. I just think it's such a funny.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a unique answer, too. Both of your answers.
You don't know why it works. It just works.
It works. Yeah.
Sure enough, in the groundwater, tailwater, something that looks like a caddis pupa is probably going to catch fish.
Boom. We need to see photos of both of those flies for sure because they sound.
I'll take some photos and I'll send them to you, and you can put them up on whatever. It's not like a secret or anything like that.
Okay, great. That's amazing. I love that. Perfect. That's awesome, guys. Those answers are great. That's a great Mitch's Fishies 5.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great podcast, man.
That's a great podcast.
Haven't heard about.
I hope that wasn't too long, guys. I know we.
Yeah. No.
Not at all.
I think we need to, shine a light on what an amazing fishery the the Nipigon
Yeah.
is, and
Oh, yeah.
and I don't want to take away from the brook trout, of course, but I mean, I think the pike should definitely share the spotlight for sure.
Yeah.
That lake, you can go out and catch your gigantic pike, gigantic brookies, lakers that are equivalent to things you'll catch in Northwest Territories.
Yeah.
Likely downrigging for them, harder to get on the fly.
Sure.
Right.
We got them the year before, and my biggest one downrigging with Gab was 43 inches, like
That's crazy.
gigantic lake
Crazy.
trout. Like it's ridiculous. And then never mind like species that people don't even think about there. Like you're getting into gigantic whitefish on the fly. Like
Yeah.
guys are getting like 10, 12 pound whitefish. Like it's
wild.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
They fight
Buck-
like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
got
a
my
big
first.
whitefish, man.
I got my
Buck
first
wild.
whitefish.
Yeah.
In Esnagami, and I don't know what it was, just shaking and shaking and
10
doing
Yeah.
shit.
pounds. Sounds like a Great
They're
Lake
huge.
steelhead, man. Yeah.
It's
Crazy.
yeah, they're like I've never seen a lake besides Simcoe that gets whitefish that big.
That's crazy, man.
So
No, you're
Yeah.
right. I think it's a great
we're
region.
spoiled.
Great
and
region.
then never
to
mind the
try to
walleye
like.
too.
And the walleye as well, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking walleye! Yeah, it's a lot of
Giant walleye.
species, man.
I love that.
But is so? Those are the main ones.
targets,
I should ask this
yeah.
earlier, but like, do they have bass? Do they have anything?
No,
Not really.
no bass.
That's
There's
cool,
lakes
man.
in the area, like slightly south of there, that have them. Some of the
Yeah.
locals say they're not. The bass aren't. That's about as far north as they go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know
So
how
cool.
true that is because we caught them on Lake of the Woods, which is about equal. But
Right.
Right.
So really, brook trout occupy a very similar niche to like smallmouth.
yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
So-
yeah, that's true. Eh?
Mm.
That lake does not have smallmouth, which is, I mean,
Good.
a very
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
Trophy brook trout are there.
Yeah.
A lot of the lakes in like north, but like still like north central Ontario that have an invasive smallmouth problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of them have outcompeted brook trout.
Mhm.
God, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Trout fisheries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
Aldo was telling me that.
If you want to catch brook trout on Nipigon, or at least see them, we're not experts at catching them on the lake yet. We're working on it. But go to anywhere you would fish for smallmouth,
Right.
and you will see them. Like
Rocky
lots of them.
shoals,
rocky
drop-offs,
shoals,
stuff like
reefs,
that,
points,
Yeah,
fallen
yeah.
timber,
Yeah.
Fallen timber. Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and you will see them. We
Yeah.
were seeing lots of fish every day, right behind your fly.
That's what Esnagami River was like that when Aldo and I floated
Yeah,
that river that day.
it was.
The spots that we hit. I'm like, this looks like a smallmouth river, and we're like,
Yeah.
cast behind that rock. That's where I would catch a giant smallmouth, and it's like a giant brook trout. I know it's crazy. It's wild. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's true. I didn't think of it that way.
So different, but so similar all at the same time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, geez, anybody listening, if you haven't fished Nipigon region, like check it out. To Nick's point right off the start of the show, be safe. Look into, how you can actually fish this thing responsibly and not die. Because we have heard it is quite a gnarly place to fish. But yeah, check it out. I mean, it's, I'm sure there's guides and stuff out there. Do some research, and yeah, we'll put some links in the show notes as well
Yeah.
about, some things. But yeah, thanks guys for coming.
I got a shout out
Yeah.
quickly to my buddy Tyler Dunn out of the Sioux. He
Yeah.
guides on Lake Nipigon.
Okay.
That guy, if you want someone that knows the lake, he's one of a few that know it for fly fishing, not just like downrigging and stuff like that.
Oh, perfect.
So Tyler Dunn, I think his Instagram handle is like Tyler Dunn Guiding.
Oh.
Let me just see if I can find it.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes for that
yeah.
because that's great. 100%.
He really knows his stuff. Yeah, Tyler Dunn Guiding. He lives in the Sioux, but he fishes it regularly, and he
Nice.
really helps me out every time. And now I haven't fished with him on Nipigon. I fished with him up in the Sioux a bunch.
Yeah.
But he's got no problem. Even to be friends, luckily, he was able to point us in the right direction. But you want
Yeah.
someone
Right.
that'll take you out, highly recommended.
Boom. There you go.
Nice,
And he knows
boom.
fly. That's great. Okay, perfect. That's great. So we can put it in the show notes. So people,
Awesome.
listening, do a trip. Take a trip to Nipigon. I think geez, we got to do it, guys. So we got to do it. I gotta get out there.
Yeah.
Those pictures.
Well,
were-
Mitch,
June
you buy a boat, man, and we'll go.
I'm
June
thinking about it.
2021 is coming around fast.
It's coming around fast, man. I tell you.
You bought a car. You bought a car, so
I got to get a
now you
boat.
need
There you go.
Because so I
It's a
have something to
trailer.
tow. Yeah, like I need to have something
Yeah,
to
exactly.
tow.
I'm interested where you are, Mitch. You're just like hiding out in a bunker, or what's up?
Yeah, check
Pretty
this
much.
out, man. I got some pine ceilings.
Yeah.
You know I'm in the
Yep.
woods right now.
Yeah, bunker. Yeah, a six bedroom cabin in the woods.
I'm in the family cottage out here, and it's I'm in the woods. I'm up in the North Frontenac in the Atherton Highlands. I'm on Buckshot
Very
Lake.
nice.
Yeah, and I'm actually thinking I've had enough scotch
Near
this
like
time of night.
Bonecco and like that area.
Yeah, close to Bonecco, not far from Mazenau Lake
Nice.
and all those. But I've been
Okay.
thinking I'm looking.
Fishing's
outside.
awesome.
It's clear. It's a clear night. I think I've had enough scotch. I might grab my fly rod and go try to catch a
Don't
nighttime
blame ya.
bass. You know what I'm saying?
I've heard enough of this Buckshot Lake all over your podcast over the years. So.
Yeah, man. Oh, you guys will come down. We'll all come down here. We'll do a trip. Next summer. We'll do a big SoFly trip to Buckshot. We'll see how many bass we can catch.
Hosted trip.
Yeah, exactly. Hosted trip. Exactly.
You could totally do a hosted trip. Yeah, you just need a flow tube.
Bring your own bring your own bagels. That's what it is. Bring your own bagels and we're good. That's all it is, man.
My kind of trip.
Well, guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. Honestly, it's been super fun talking about the Nipigon and all your fly fishing life. And yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah,
It's been a great
We'll see on the river.
Oh, yeah,
enough.
for sure.
Yeah, we'll get out fishing. I'm sure we'll do another show down the road. Like,
Matt, I know you're about to be a dad, so
Yes.
like any day now.
Close,
so,
yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah,
yeah, man.
very excited.
Congratulations. That's exciting, man.
Life's about to change,
Oh,
but
yeah.
looking
You
forward
have,
to
a new
that change.
you have a new fishing buddy.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, rock and roll.
Definitely. If I'm just trying to use, honestly, it seems a little weird, but using Nick as an inspiration with how many times he's taken his little guy out on the river and stuff
That's
already.
awesome.
I want to be just like that. So
I love that.
pretty cool.
Nice one,
Pretty
Nick.
cool.
On.
Yeah. Doing a good job, Nick.
Hell yeah.
Here.
Absolutely. Well, everybody at home, thanks for listening. And again, check out the show notes for stuff to Nipigon. And that's enjoy the rest of your summer. Take care out there. Be safe. That's it from me, Mitch. Aldo.
Bye, everybody.
Yilma.
Yeah. See you later. Thanks for tuning in.
Matt.
Take care.
Nick.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Take care. See you guys.
Yay!
You can find all of SoFly's content at SoFly.ca. On Instagram, we're at the SoFly Crew. You can reach us at thesoflycrew@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or concerns. On Facebook, we're SoFly, and our podcast is available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify.